Hey, what's up, comrades? Hope everyone's doing great. We're here to talk about Dragon Quest 2 2D, 3D, HD remake thingy, whatever. This is comes in a bundle with the Dragon Quest 1 game and is the direct sequel and the final of like the trilogy chronologically. Obviously, it's the second game that was made back in the day because it's called 2, and the first one we played is called 3. But it added a lot of things from the first game. For example, it split the party into 3, and there was plans to split it into 4, but that never came to fruition for whatever reason, like until now. So now you can get a 4th player instead of just the 3. This was hands down my favorite game ever until Final Fantasy IV came out. Yes, which was Final Fantasy 2 when I got it, so that's funny. It was like 2-2. Because playing on the Nintendo, playing a game like this was such like, the story that it had was excellent, which was not much, but it was like, you have to go talk to these people, go do this, talk to these people, go do that. It was so much more than like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest 1 or a lot of these other games, Mario, right? Legend of Zelda, which was like virtually no story whatsoever. Besides just like, go rescue the princess. Good job. High fives all around. So with this, you start off as the like main character, I guess, hero, and you have no magic whatsoever. So it's just you. You're like a fighter from Final Fantasy. And then you go and you meet up with your cousins because there's like 3 kingdoms and they're all descended from Erdrick, who is the most recent Erdrick, not the previous Erdrick. But you're also descended from them because he was descended from them. And then the game just pretty much plays the same. So all 3 of these games from the 2D, 3D remakes are different because 3 adds all the stuff with like personalities and leveling that up and all the fun stuff with that. And then 1 just has so much crazy nonsense that because you're a solo dude, so you can pretty much do like every class, right? Like a superpower. You got like every ability, tons of stats all across the board, no matter what. And then you can get all these scrolls to get more stuff. The scrolls are back. Mini medals are back. The mini medal thing I was really kind of just like whatever about. I don't think I got that many. I think there's like 100 in the game, and I ended up getting like maybe 40 in this whole thing. The previous one too, I think I maybe got like 45, I want to say. What I really missed from the 3rd game was the casinos, because now they replace them with the monster arenas, and I'm just not as big a fan of that. The monster arenas are like okay, but they're not as fun as like gambling, because some of the gambling rewards were like out of control good. Like they had these things called like liquid metal shield and armor and stuff. I'm pretty sure that was in the 3rd one. I know it was in the 4th one, and that stuff was like the most powerful thing in the game. And if you like gambled and got lucky, like you could really like overpower your characters from like the very beginning. It was excellent. Well, with the monster arena, the whole game is like easier, and so it's unnecessary to like really break it necessarily, because you can literally just turn on what I did, which is the easy mode, Drakey mode, and never die. There's something fun about just bending these fucking games over and just destroying them, despite all their challenges and whatnot. So pretty much the game, what it adds is just, you have the main character, and then you have his first cousin, and then he's kind of like the hero from the first game, but less powerful, like attack-wise and magic-wise, but he's got a lot of different stuff he can do. And then you get the female cousin, and she's super good at magic and nothing else. And then in this version of the game, you can go back and get the second cousin's sister, who's also your cousin, obviously, because she's the sister. And she is almost like a mixture of like a thief, a joker, and she does have some magic capabilities. So it's like a whole hodgepodge of like classes. Like no, I wouldn't say anyone's like a specific class besides the main character is just straight up like a fighter, and then the main girl, or the princess from the third princess, the 3rd cousin, is only a magic user, but the 2 like brother-sister cousins, they are kind of like a hodgepodge of things. They all have interesting personalities. The main character, again, is like a silent protagonist in this, so you get a lot more chitter-chatter with like the other 3 cousins, and they get like pretty emotional at times, and I'm like, it's kind of gay. But other and that kind of like leads me to kind of my biggest complaint with all these games is like, I feel like these games, when they came out, they were excellent. I wouldn't say they were perfect, but like 9s out of 10, right? Just like I could go back and play these games like anytime and just thoroughly enjoy it. And with all three of these games, I start to kind of like tap out because the story was good in the originals. And then what they did was make it not better, in my opinion, but worse. They just kind of like stuff drags out. Like, I think I beat Dragon Quest II, even with grinding, in like 7-8 hours. Because you just, as long as, like, not the first time I played through it, but like the most recent time, which was like several years ago, because I know where everything's at, right? So you just like hit this, go there. Once the world opens up and you get your ship, you can kind of just like crush out everything you need, head to the final area, like find an area with a bunch of liquid metal slimes and just like save state and so they don't run away, and just like grind levels real quick and get money, and then you just like cruise to the boss and beat him. This is like everything you, and I don't mind like a little bit extra. They have like this whole nother character that I do not remember from these games, and granted it's been a long time, but there's like 3 main bosses, then there's Hargon, the main boss, and then there's like a secret super boss at the end, right? That's like the actual evil driving the whole thing, if I remember correctly. With this, there's like another girl boss, and not girl boss in the pejorative sense. Girl boss is in like she's literally a girl who's like one of these like major fiend enemies, and she's all right. Like, I don't mind her. Again, it's like one of those things where it's like I don't mind her inclusion like at all, but at the same time it's like I just want to like play this game and go do the things and then move on to the next stage. And this is like, oh hey, you know that thing you want to do? Yes. You have to do 15 things first. It was like in the Dragon Quest 1, where it's like, oh, the Staff of Rain, you just go to the Shrine of Rain, and I don't think you even need a key. You can just literally go get as soon as you can like grind out enough levels to not get killed completely, walking over to the Shrine of Rain, you can go get the Staff of Rain. Like, it's that simple. In this, it's like, and then the remake, it's like, oh, you want the Staff of Rain? Well, first, you gotta go find the fairies. Then you gotta find the doors. And then you gotta find more fairies. And then you gotta find a cure. And then you gotta go find this. And then you gotta go find that. And then you gotta find like 14 other things. And then it's like, the game's almost like over. And it's like, all right, now you gotta go climb up the tower. And like, oh God, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Meanwhile, the orb of sunlight or whatever, you just got to get a key and roll down there, and the guy's like, here you go. And I'm like, this is exactly how it was in the original game. Like, why is this like Staff of Rain thing such like a, like the only thing holding you back in the first game was your levels, just like grinding it out a little bit. But at the same time, it's like there was story. There was like extra stuff you could go do. Like you could go through extra dungeons that were completely unnecessary and had sometimes like garbage stuff in them. Which is just kind of the fun of the exploration. This is like, there's an excuse to go to like every single area in the game, and everything's drawn out, and it's like kind of fun, but at the same time, it's like, man, I am playing, Dragon Quest should take like 5 hours to beat. Why am I an hour like 12? Like, why is this game like almost 3 times as long? That is completely unnecessary. So I just don't like it as much. Like, I don't think I would ever go back and play these games again. I'm like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to keep like the space that they're taking up on my server to have these things around someday, because it's just like, these are like far, as far as I'm concerned, these are like inferior versions of like the original games, or not even the original games, like the Super Nintendo or Game Boy Color games, or Game Boy Advance game remakes. Because it's just like the story just drags, man. Like, some of it's kind of interesting, but it drags. It drags so hard. And I didn't notice the Dragon Quest 3, probably because just Dragon Quest 3 had like more stuff going on, but it still kind of dragged there. Not as much though. Dragon Quest 1, like, it dragged a little bit. I definitely have complaints, but this Dragon Quest 2, I'm just like, holy cow, I am like an hour like 21 of this fucking game. Like, why? Right? And it's not grinding. Like, I use Holy Protection, or like the priest concoction, whatever it does, so monsters don't attack you if you're stronger than them, for most of the time. And it's still just like these stories just go on and on and on, and it's like, bro, like, holy cow, I don't know why everything has to be like a telenovela, like every single quest I do it. And it's like, I'm like playing this game and I'm like checking my clock and I'm like looking around and I'm like, do I have time for like another like 20-minute long like diatribe as I'm going to like 2 different locations to talk to 2 different people with like all this extra bullcrap like backstory with like little, not cutscenes, but like essentially like little cutscenes and flashbacks and stuff. It's like, holy shit, man. Anyway, so Is it recommended to play Dragon Quest 2? Yes, absolutely. Is it recommended to play this version of Dragon Quest 2? Absolutely not. Definitely play one of the other versions. Just, like, again, play the Super Nintendo version. It comes with both. You can just, like, ROM, download it, play it on a SNES emulator. Perfection. Excellent every possible way. But yeah, that's that. And there's, like, they just redid Dragon Quest 7, and I'm like, ugh. Like, that game was hella long, man. Like, I think I put like 100 hours in that game. It's like, are they going to do the same bullshit here? I hear they actually take out a lot of like the quests that are required, and now they're side quests. But I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't feel like that. I don't really trust this Square Enix, to be completely honest. Like, I don't really feel like they did a grand job redoing any of this stuff. Like, it just feels so much more hollow and without heart, to be completely honest. Like, if you look at like people complaining about modern day games, you hear that a lot, but it's because it's true. Like, you play these games and it's like, okay, this looks beautiful. That is fair. And it's nice you added like a little bit to like tie things together and have a little bit more story. But it's like, you go so hard for this stuff and it's not a good addition. Like, for example, and we'll get there probably like an hour and a half from now. But there's like a mermaid queen, and at some point you go talk to her, and she's, instead of just being like, oh, I need this pearl that I gave away because I was young and in love, it's like a 10-minute long like cutscene with like voice acting and all this stuff, and I'm just like, why is this so goddamn long? Like, like, I have played visual novels that are like less verbose than this game at times, and I'm just like, this is not what I'm here for. I'm here to like go kill Hargon. Like, I feel like this is taking way too fucking long to get there. And just the back and forth and all the extra stuff with some places, and it's like, can I just go to like this town and get like the 2 things I need and then leave? Like, why do I have to keep coming back here? Like, it seems so unnecessary, and it's just less fun. Like, that, at the end of the day, it's just far less fun. But, you know, it is what it is. So, let's get into the story then. So we pick up directly from the end of the first game, and we apparently left with our hot banging princess Gwendolyn and started our own kingdom called Middenhall. And it flourished so much so that generations later, other descendants of us from the first game went off and started other kingdoms like Cannock and Moonbrook. And so there were 3 kingdoms, all led by the scions of Erdrick, the character from the first game, who inherited the title of Erdrick from his ancestor, who was also called Erdrick, not to be confusing. And so now they're all these kings are like cousins. So then all the cousins, all the people we play are like second cousins or something like that. And so, okay. So then we start off with the Crown Prince of Middenhall, who is your self-insert character, so Comrade Bear, obviously. And then the second prince is the Crown Prince of Cannock, named Caradoc, which I still wish I changed that name. I just left it as what it was says. And lastly, there's Moonbrook, which is a magic-based kingdom. And they have the Crown Princess Perenelle, which is less bad than Caradoc, to be honest. At that point, we jump ahead many years, so they're all like babies. Now it's like they're all 16 or whatever. We see Perenelle practicing magic with her father. He's pretty sick, and the mom is dead from something. They hear some noises, and a guard rushes because, oh no, fiends are attacking, and it's Hargon! Oh, Hargon hasn't been seen for so many years. The last time he was heard of, he destroyed the city of Renderok out in the mountains south of here. And apparently these fiends are like, the king like kills all the fiends, and then some more arrive, and then he kills some more, and then he orders, and then we find out that they want the princess. Why do they want the princess? No idea, but they want the princess. So he kills some more, and then he orders Perenelle to follow him. He takes her down underneath like this courtyard area that they're hanging out in, and then you hear him cast some sort of spell, and then he comes back out. It says something about like the fiends knowing her face no more or something, and then when he comes out, he gets attacked again, and finally, after just blowing up a whole bunch of them, he finally gets got. We then pan over to the ruin. We pan over the ruins of the kingdom as all the guards are being like killed, and we see that there's one guard that remains alive, and he runs off to warn the other kingdoms. He realizes that he must warn Middenhall first, because that's like the main area for this whole kingdom that we started when we were like hundreds of years ago at this point, or 100 years ago. So despite his injuries, he rushes away. Over in Middenhall, we, as the main character, roll up to our king, who's the dad, And he's like, do you feel it too, don't you, son? There's ill omens at play. So he tells us to go speak with the people and then go do some training. So we head out and we scavenge the city for all like the goodies that we can find. And then we talk to like this, first thing we do is we talk to this merchant lady. She tells us that the haul that usually comes from Moonbrook is like a day late, which is super unusual. And then some rude asshole comes up and makes fun of us for not knowing magic, even though we're like a descendant of Erdrick. And then she tells him off and tells us that we're doing great, but that we should head over and train right now. So we head back into the castle, I think that's where he was, to where the captain of the guard is, and we're going to train with him. So he tells us we've just about matched him in skill, and we start practicing. At that point, we hear someone start shouting about an injured guard from Moonbrook, and both of us run out and find this guy, the guy from Moonbrook. He's finally made it. And then apparently his brother works here in Middenhall, and he's like, no, brother! I was like, damn, what? And then, this is like one of those unnecessary pieces of addition. It's just like extra lines that mean nothing, and this never comes up again. So it's like, this is not good writing game. Like, I don't know what you're doing. He then tells us we then take him into the throne room, and he tells us and the king and everybody about what happened in Moonbrook, and then he starts to die, and his brother like freaks out. So the king buries him as a hero for coming to us with all the news, and then the king tells the guards not to tell anybody about like what happened in Moonbrook, because it could spread like panic, and that would cause a lot of problems. So they're gonna he then takes us out to like not the courtyard, like that area where like Erdrick used to like bang out Gwendolyn when her dad wasn't looking, on top of the castle. So we go out there, but this is in Middenhall, so it's a different castle. But presumably that's why he built it, so they could do some more of that. He then informs us about the Renderick thing that happened decades ago, right? So that's where we find out about that. And about the High Priest Hargon, who led the Fiends to do all this stuff. He says he's going to stay here and establish like greater defenses and all that. And then he orders us to go to Cannock to warn them about what happened in Moonbrook as well. And then he hands us the necklace of Gwendolyn, and tells us that and tells us how it was a way for the princess to communicate with her lover, like our great-great-great-great-great-grandma and our great-great-great-grandpa, to communicate when he was off doing adventures and whatnot. So we take that and we head on our way. At this point, we wander around for a little bit. We go to the town called Leftwise, because it's left of Middenhall, I guess. Which is like a town on the way to Cannock. We explore some there, and then we head up to Cannock. The people talk a lot about the prince and how he's got like a good heart, but he's kind of like a scatterbrain and just kind of like wanders off and does stuff. They also talk about the princess and how she is like a handful. Which she's the best in the game, hands down. So she's the best addition, and I would keep her but get rid of like all the other story shit. So we go talk to her, and she's like, oh yeah, my idiot brother wandered off again, good luck with that. Then we talk to the king, we tell him everything about Moonbrook that we learned about, and he's super concerned. So then he summons his son to come to help us, and of course he's not here, as we already learned from the princess, his sister. And so she comes in and says like, oh yeah, he ran off to like the wellspring of the heroes or some shit like that. And the king and queen get like super exasperated, and then it's like the king's like, hey, I'm sorry, can you please go over there? It's like over there, and drag him back over here. And we're like, sure, sounds good. Because when we get the prince and come back, the king will have something for us that we can use. And we're like, cool, sounds good. And then as we're leaving, the princess grabs us, Matilda is her name, and she's so good, and drags us to her room. And I'm like, yeah, boy, here we go, incest time. But not really. So I think she's only supposed to be 14 too. Anyway, she is going to come with us and get her brother, because we're going to need some help because he's a dumb asshole. And so she kicks us out of her room so she can change to her adventure garbs, and then she rolls out and she looks cute as a button. And so together we head off to Wellspring of Heroes. Now Matilda, until she officially joins the party much, much later, and this never happened in the original game, by the way. So she joins later on in the game. She's uncontrollable, so she just kind of does whatever she wants. She heals us or casts, usually just like Fire 1, or whatever they call it in this game, Fire Strike or something. No, Frizzle. I think they call it Frizz. I think I got Frizz. Or just attacks with like her rapier. And so as we're heading over to the Wellspring Heroes, which is not too far away from here, she just talks shit about her brother and stuff. And then when we get to the Wellspring Heroes, she talks some more shit. And then we head down. And eventually we get to like the Wellspring. And there we find like an old man. And he's like, oh, yeah. Caradoc, he was here and he bathed. I was like, I'm ready to do this. And then he left for Middenhall. So Matilda's like, that motherfucker. fuck is wrong with him? And so then the mage counsels her to be more like a princess, and then gives us both a blessing. So we head back home to Middenhall, talk to our father, and he's like, oh yeah, your cousin was here a minute ago. He said he was going to head back over to Cannock. And we're like, oh, goddamn. Okay, so we head back over to Cannock. Matilda then gets super frustrated. Our dad also tells us to like make sure we protect our younger cousin and take care of her because she's going to be our wife someday. And she's like, no, I'm here to protect Comrade Bear. He's not going to protect me. I'm protecting him. And the king loves it, and I love it, and everyone loves it because she's the best. We then wander back over to Cannock, and we learn that Caradec is not here either. Wah, wah, wah. So he's somewhere in between. So obviously he's leftwise because that's the only place left. So we wander over there, and... oh yeah, and the king is also, her dad, our uncle, is like, Matilda, what the fuck are you doing? And she's like, she does this like super cute explanation about how she's got to take care of us and make sure to take care of her brother and be a good princess and watch out for her people and all this stuff. And the parents are like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so she followed us around. So we get to leftwise, and then as soon as we walk in the building, like the necklace that we got from our dad, Gwendolyn's necklace, lights up. And Matilda's like, the fuck is that? And then she's like, why do you like such pretty baubles, weirdo? And I'm like, oh, I love her. And then we find Caradec. He's just chilling at the end. We find him, we discuss with him, and try to find us while we were trying to find him, and it was a whole big mess and whatever. And then he questions Matilda about what she's doing, and she's like, I'm trying to find your dumbass. And he's like, that's fair. And so at that point, he joins us like officially, so we can control him. Matilda then mentions that she has had a lot of fun and thanks us, and we return to Cannock with Caradec and Matilda. Matilda goes back to doing like princess shit, and Caradec goes to his father and like apologizes for being an asshole and like wandering off and all that stuff. And then we're like, no, it's cool, brother. I had a good time going on a date with my future wife, your sister, my cousin. And then the king orders Caradec to join us, which, I mean, he already did, so I don't understand what that was all about. But anyway, then the queen presents us with a parchment that will help us get it through the gatehouse to Moonbrook. Matilda officially says goodbye, and I'm sad until she joins us again later. And then we head over to the guardhouse. Over at the guardhouse to Moonbrook, we find that the guard's knocked out and the place is all smashed up like real good. They tell us the fiend's broke in and wrecked the place. And we're like, wah, wah, wah. So now we can't get to Moonbrook. Caradec mentions that there is a solution to this problem. So in the original game, you just like wandered over here with this script after you got Caradec, and then they just like let you in. But now you got to go to this other place and get like the bottomless. No. It was still flooded. So now we got to go to this bottomless. We got to get the bottomless pot. And Caradec goes on this whole like rant about how the bottomless pot's been passed down through generations in his line, and it's like a national treasure, but it's like in this cave, like all the way over there, not even close to the castle. And I'm like, okay, I don't know why you hide shit like that over there, but Moonbrook does the same fucking thing, so I guess it's just like idiocracy passed down through like marrying cousins and stuff. Not that I don't approve of that situation in Matilda's regard, but in this situation, I feel like the inbreeding could have been toned down just a tiny bit. Anyway, so then the guards are going to head over to Cannock to tell the king about what happened, and then we're going to come back here and like drain the lake with the bottomless pit after we get the pot. So we meander ourselves over the guard or the cave. On the way, there's this big lake with a bridge that goes out into it. That's not like shady as it at all. And there's like a guy just standing there being like, I don't know what this bridge is for. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure we'll find out this later. Anyway, so when we get to the cave, we find that there's more guards. These ones are all dead though. And Caradec like freaks the fuck out because he's a bitch, which comes up a lot. But then he pulls it together because we like, hey man it up. Like, we've killed tons of fiends. Like, you've seen lots of crazy stuff. You're supposed to be a prince. Like, stop being a bitch. So we can proceed. Deep inside, we find Kadabra and Abra talking about finding a sigil. And that they think they'll find a sigil here, but they do not. They just find the pot. Caradec is in like, stop fiends, we will punish you for your evilness and killing guys or whatnot. And so we beat the shit out of them. And then Caradec's like super excited. He's like, wow, we're really strong. We did a great job. I'm like, yes, I'm really strong. I did a great job, but you're here, I guess. Cast heal 1 on me. At that point, we go and we see that what they were looking at, which was not a sigil, it was this bottomless pit. And so Caradec mentions them talking about the sigils, in case you missed it. And this like drags on. Like, people will talk about something, and then someone else will like back brief like 2 seconds later. And I'm like, okay, I understand. Like, in real life, you want to do a lot of back briefing, especially with like large organizations or the military, to make sure people like completely understand. But this is a video game. Just talk about sigils and then have it come up later. Like, I don't need to have like monsters have a conversation. Now we have a conversation about the same thing, or we have a conversation. Monsters have a conversation. We have another conversation. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, why is there so much talking in this fucking game? And then let's see, talks about, and it's like, okay, yeah, sounds good. Let's just head back over to the gatehouse. Fuck these sigils. So I mentioned before, but this This gay house is called Gwendolyn's Gay House or something. Gwendolyn's Gate. It's nice. So we use the pot. We get in there. We use the pot. It drains all the water. The guards are all amazed about the treasure we found and how we used it and whatnot. And then we head through the tunnel, which takes us under a big river to find to get to the other side so that we can get to Moonahome. And as soon as we enter Moonahome, which is like a small town outside of Moonbrook, the pendant lights up, like when we met Karadak. So obviously the princess is here. We talk about the necklace lighting up and all that stuff and what it means for a little bit. But since we're both guys and we're dumb teenagers, they just like, it's like, I don't know, man, shit just lights up every once in a while. And it's like, yeah, bro, I got that. So in this town, we find a dog that follows us around as well, which is obviously the princess transformed into a dog if you're not retarded. But these guys are retarded, so they don't realize that. And also there's a guard from Moonbrook who was like out of the castle when it got attacked. So there are some people who survived the attack on Moonbrook. They just happen to be like out doing other shit. And then we talked to him about the castle, and he's like, it's not great. You should go check it out yourselves and see what's going on there. So we head down to Moonbrook Castle, and we see the spirit of the king there. Karadak talks about death and how it's pretty intense to see all this devastation and dead bodies, ghosts and monsters and stuff. And then we hear something from the courtyard, and we go to check it out. On the way there, we find the spirit of a guy who left his son with his sister in Leftwise, which was good. This is like the good story writing that was added to this game. Because when we were Leftwise, we meet this lady, and she's like, I haven't heard from my brother in a while, but he sent his son over here to watch. He's like a guard over there. And then we meet like his spirit, and he's like, I hope my sister can take care of my son because I'm dead. There's nothing I can do about that. And I was like, oh, that was good storytelling. That was very sad. There are other spirits we speak to as well here. They just talk about random bullshit. In the courtyard, we all find like a single flower, and as we're about to, it's just like, oh, and we like, Karadak, because he's a woman, talks about the flower for a little bit, and then we're about to leave, but then we hear a voice. It tells us that we must save her and to head to a shrine in the east. And so we agree that we're going to listen to this random voice that just like popped out of nowhere, and so we go check it out. Over in this shrine, we find an altar, and then there's a treasure there. It's the Mirror of Ra, and if you remember the Mirror of Ra from Dragon Quest III, you know it reveals the truth. So this is how we're going to find the princess. Excellent. So they discuss what the Mirror Rock could possibly be doing and what it could mean and all that stuff. And then it's like, all right, let's go back to Moonahome. Maybe the princess will be there now that we've discovered this treasure, and listen to the voice. Back at Moonahome, the necklace shines again, and then they're both like, you know what? I think this is because the princess is here. I think we figured it out. I think we finally like put two and two together, and we're like, the most obvious answer is probably the right answer, so let's do that. And so we go to find the dog, obviously from earlier, that followed us around, and we use the Mirror of Ra on it, and it transforms back into Paranel. Hooray! She doesn't remember much, and wishes that she could go see her father, not much about the attack or anything. She just remembers there was an attack, and then all of a sudden she was like, here is a dog. And we tell her about the destruction and offer to take her to Middenhall to rest instead, but she refuses because no place is safe, and she demands that we're going to go with us. You know, we try to pull some like misogyny on her, but she's like, hell no, I'm a strong and independent powered woman with lots of magical capabilities, and your guys' magic is shit. And I'm like, that's true. That's I would enjoy having your powerful magic with us. That sounds like a great idea. So we decided the rest of the night for here, and then go back to Middenhall, Canuck, and then go back to Moonbrook. Late in the night, Karadak wakes up, and he wants to speak outside to us. He reflects on our lineage, he questions some things, says the princess fights to exercise her guilt while we fight for living, and that maybe we can help her fight for living. Like, you know, because she doesn't have a family anymore, but like we're her family, but like, you know, we weren't like close or anything. So we chat about that. We chat about calling her like sweet cuz, some other random bullshit like that. And then we're like, all right, cool, let's do that. Let's try being nice to her, try like being family to her since she doesn't have any living family anymore. And then we go to bed, and we see that she has snuck out as well and was like listening to us. So the next morning we review the plan, and Paranel like officially joins the party. And then before we leave, she stops us and asks us to stop calling her like princess, or stop calling her like her royal majesty or whatever, and that we can call her cousin or even sweet cuz. And then she gets embarrassed and runs off. Bitches. So then we start by heading to Middenhall. There the king, our father, offers to house Paranel, his niece, but she wishes to travel with us. He gives us we talk about the destruction of Moonbrook and that it is true and everything that happened there and stuff. And so he gives us the Mark of Middenhall in case we need it, in case we need to prove to anybody that we're actually like the crown prince of Middenhall. Next, we go to Cannock. There, the Queen and Matilda go and like they all hug it out, right? They do like the women's thing, or women like hug and stuff, while the king just stands stoically like a man, unlike his son, who's also kind of a bitch. And then we fill in the king about everything that happened. He praises his son and us for being brave, and then he gives his son the mark of Cannock that we can use to prove that he is the Crown Prince of Cannock. And it's like, cool, awesome, let's go to Moonbrook. So we head back to Moonbrook, right? There's a lot of going back to places in this game, this fucking game. And the prince, and none of this happens there again. You just like go here, go there, go to the next place. People in town just like hand wavily mention things like, oh, there's a tower out there. I think there's some crazy thing up there. And you're like, oh, tower, huh? Like I said tower, therefore I need to go to the tower, right? But I guess like they think we're all retarded now, so we have to like, everything's got to be like a circle on a map with yellow paint that we gotta go figure out what to do. Fucking game. The princess takes it all in. She gets kind of sad, cries a little bit, and then she goes to get the mark of Moonbrook, which should be hidden in like this painting on the wall, but it's missing. Oh no. Then the counselor of Moonbrook and some guards show up, and they were off at some town trying to secure like trade routes by water, and so they all survived. And so they talk about how his mission was a failure because they got to the Dragon's Horn, which is like these two towers that separate this like cliff on both sides where like the sea like goes out into the ocean, and that they couldn't figure out how to get across that without a boat. And since they didn't have a boat to go get the boats, they needed to like, establish trade routes. They just kind of like meandered back. Then one of the soldiers mentions an item called the Windbreaker, which acts like a glider, and with that we can get across the river. And we talk about that, and there's like a funny story about how the princess's or Perenelle's like dad. It's like a heirloom, right? So it's a big treasure. So of course they hide it in a tower that's like way the fuck over there somewhere else. Not the Dragon Horde tower, like a totally different tower. So we go to the like totally different tower. And inside, so the king, like, he knew, he wasn't like sure this was actually going to work. So one day he just like climbed up in the Dragon Horn with this thing, and it flew back and forth across because it like slowed down his descent. And so he was able to use like a glider. So if we can get that, we can do it. So we're like, okay, cool, that sounds good. Let's do that. And then at that point, that king or the counselor also hands us the thief's key, which we need to get into that tower. Nice. And so we head over to the tower to begin our search. So we get to the tower. It's a tower. So we just like climb all the way up to the top of this thing. And once we're at the top there, we run into this asshole named Lumpfather, and he's complaining to himself about the assault on Moonbrook, which like left him nothing to do or something. Like he's just kind of bored and shit. And the Perenelle rolls up and is like, "You were involved in that? I hate you. I want you to die." And he's like, "Yeah, I helped destroy Moonbrook. Fuck that place." And then we fight him. After beating the asshole, Caradox celebrates, but Perenelle is still like pretty sad. She sobs, and we go over to comfort her because, you know, we're men, and that's what we gotta do. We gotta like hold the women while they cry and shit. And then we're like, hey, let's just like rest up here, and we'll keep looking for this Windbreaker thing later. As we were on guard duty, Perenelle offers to take over because she can't sleep anyway, and we decline, but she's very insistent. She then considers everything she has lost, but is comforted that she's not alone, that she has us. The next day, we head further in the tower, like we have to go like all the way up, and then we come back down, and there we finally find the Windbreaker. We take the Windbreaker and head over to the guard post west of Moonbrook, so which will lead us over to the Dragonhorn towers. And then we run into some guards. Perenelle is excited that they're completely unharmed, but they think we're fiends in disguise. So Caradoc and I have to whip out our proofs. And this is the only time you use these marks. So we use the marks to prove like, hey, yeah, no, we can get through. We're actually like princes and stuff. And then the princess doesn't have her mark. And so it says she busts out the Windbreaker. And they're like, oh, I've seen that before. You must be the princess. Sounds good. And they finally let us through. So on the way to the Dragonhorn Towers, there's like a cute little oasis way station. That's fun. So go in there and get some stuff. Then we get to the top of the tower. We head to we work our way to the top. There's no bosses or nothing. Caradoc then starts to chicken out as we like whip out the thing. We're like, all right, we're gonna jump. And then he's like, I don't know if I can do this, fellas. And we're like, all right, adios then, we're gonna go. And then he's like, really, you're gonna leave me behind? And we're like, nope. So we grab him, and the three of us like hold on to the Windbreaker, and we jump across, and everyone's like, hooray, that was so much fucking fun. That was a fucking delight. And then once we get to the other side, and everyone like calms the fuck down, we then climb up the other side of the tower, and we're able to get this cloth thing. And in the other game, in the original games, you use this cloth in a certain part of the game, and you get like the best armor for Perenelle. I don't know if that's going to happen in this game. I've been carrying this thing around for like the whole game. I'm sure I'll find it eventually. I'm almost beat this game. I need to go pretty much and just find like all the best items and then go fight the final boss. But It's like, what? You drag this thing around for so long. Where in the original games, you just like get to a certain part in the game, and it's like, here you go, and they're like, here you go, and you're like, thank you, my friend, for giving me this fantastic armor for her, because she's got shit armor for most of the game. So then we head north, and we finally get to Rippleport, which is like this town with the dock. And normally you show up here, you get the boat, and you go. But here in this game, nope, that can't be the case. We get this, like, we see that most of the people in the town have traveled to like a separate mountain area to the north of the town, and we talked to like the mayor of the town, and he's getting an argument with like a merchant or like a sailor or something. They can't sail because like there's not enough people here to like manage the harbor anymore, so like everything's shut down here. And then they tell us about this like evil nun, or they say a nun showed up, started preaching, and then a merchant joined her, and a lot of people, including the mayor's daughter, like went there to like worship and like draw closer to God or something. And that no one can sail away as long as all the people are over there. So we're like, hey, we'll go check it out. It's like these mountains not too far away. So we head to the mountains, and we find this like obviously evil nun is telling the people to do evil and to not help other people out, to just be like an asshole. And we roll up and tell everyone that they must help others and strive together, and that separating is like the wrong answer. And this wakes most of the people up. They finally are like, oh yeah, that's a bad idea. We shouldn't hurt each other and stuff. And that hurting each other is ridiculous. They then all bounce out of there, and then the nun and merchant turn into fiends, and then we beat their asses. Afterwards, we discuss how evil the fiends are, and then head back to Rippleport. There we meet up with the mayor, his wife, his daughter. She apologizes for being conned and everything, and the mayor tells us that we can have a ship, his ship in fact, but that they have to set it up so that we're going to stay the night at the inn for free. So we do, and during the night we get a message from our little spirit friend who speaks to us sometimes, which is probably the fairy queen lady from the other two games. She tells us to let our wings go and to fly and explore the sea and explore the world. And in the morning, we discussed this with all our cousins here, and how we are excited to stop Hargun and his minions and finally begin our mission for real. All right, let's wake up the next day. The harbor master's wife, or the harbor master lady, or the wife of the mayor, I didn't catch her title. Something. She's somehow involved in this whole thing. She's like, hey, we're ready to go. You guys can go. We talk among ourselves about finding out Hargun's plan and what we need to do to take care of that, as well as warning others about what happened in Moonbrook. Parallel wants to do it without causing any fear, though. She's also concerned about getting seasick, which is adorable. Kiradek gets excited and feels bad that he's getting so excited and he's having so much fun because it's serious work. And then him and the princess like talk about enjoying themselves despite all the bad stuff that's happened to her. It's pretty deep for teenagers, not gonna lie. For normal people, it's pretty shallow, but you know, they're supposed to be like 16, I think. Anyway, they come to the conclusion that it's okay to feel happy sometimes, even if like there's darkness, because the happiness will help you drive forward and continue to be successful and whatnot. And so we hop on the ship and we take off. Our first stop's gonna be Tantagil. Yep, it's in this game, because fuck it, right not, it's right here. As we get in there, we enter. Paranel talks to us about the history of our ancestors. After leaving here, Gwendolyn, he started Middenhall. We already know all this. And then the descendants went to Canuck and then to Moonbrook, right? We know this all already. It's just like a repeat. Fair enough. So there may be some information here about Hargun and the sigils, which is now like the main focus. So we go talk to like our cousin, like 16 times removed or whatever. How would that work? Yeah, I mean the king must have had more kids, because this king's like a direct descendant of the king from like the first game, who's a descendant of the king from the third game. And so if we are a descendant of his eldest daughter who went and married us, he must have had like a son at some point or another daughter. And so we're cousins. Okay, that makes sense. So our other cousin here, he's kind of like a party fella. He likes to drink and hang out and have a good time, which is excellent. And we find that Chancellor, who tells us that the princess was just here yesterday talking about doing a joint tourney or something. And we're like, no, that can't be true, because this is the true princess. There's some back and forth about that. How can we prove it, whatnot? Finally, we prove it that we're actually descendants of Erdrick and Gwendolyn, because we have Gwendolyn's necklace. Heck yeah. So that's the point of having that in the game. They thank us for correcting them, and you know, they're going to pull back all their guards and stop them from training with like wooden weapons for this tourney. They're going to like build up their defenses and stuff, make sure the fiends can't attack them. And as for the false princess, she has the Mark of Moonbrook. Oh no, we're going to have to deal with that at some point, presumably. And she was obviously setting up a trap for the people here in Tantagil. Then the king meets us up among the battlements where our great grandparents used to fuck. And he talks about how he wants us to find and destroy Hargun. He has no information about the sigils or Hargun or anything like that, but you know who does? The Dragon Lord does. He then gives us the rainbow drop. Oh, so that was, thank God, we don't have to go do that fucking thing again. And sends us out. So we explore around Alfgard. We go to like Gallenholm, to Cole, to Remeder, and stuff like that. A bunch of caves and whatnot. And eventually, after grinding it out and just like wandering around a whole bunch, we head to the Dragon Lord's castle. After finding out that the lady who had the magic key, like her ancestor was the one who made the magic key, and she had the magic key, and then she dropped it in the ocean, which means it's gone. Sad times. And don't go looking for that key if you're playing this game, because I thought about doing it, but I was like, I don't want to just wander around here. So I looked it up, and you just, like everything else in these fucking remakes, if you just like bide your time, you eventually just stumble upon everything you need by like just following the main quest, which is super boring, not gonna lie. So we hit the Dragon Lord's castle after making the Rainbow Bridge for the 3rd time. We work our way through his castle. As we get deeper, we find these 2 Gamooks. They are talking about how they invited the Dragon Lord to join them per Lord Belial's request, and that he refused them. They then talk about bringing a horde of fiends over here to stomp him out. So we walk up, shout at them, and then they fight and die, of course. Then we discuss what they told us about Hargon and Belial and how they may be associated. Also about the Dragon Lord and how it supposedly was slain by our ancestor, and that maybe this guy's an imposter. So we're going to see. Once we reach Dragon Lord, he does his King of Kings speech again. Karadek calls him an imposter, and then we find out that he actually is the Dragon Lord's great grandson. He then states that he has no issues with humans. Perenelle tells him about Moonbrook, then asks how we can defeat Hargon. He mentions that we got to collect the 5 sickles. We discuss how they are the power of nature, and he can't tell us more because it's not like his place, but he will guide us to the place where the people can tell us. And that they may be in need of help as well. He then tells us about the Shrine of Rain, where the fairies are all hanging out, and that it's under siege by fiends right now. So we decide we need to discuss the situation before we commit to helping the fairies and trusting the Dragon Lord. But eventually, through some like just back and forth, we decide we're going to trust the Dragon Lord and do that. Perenelle wants to find... wants him to prove that he doesn't want to hurt humans first before we do anything to help him. And so he's like, ta-da! Hey, it's the Sword of Erdrick that apparently our ancestor, like, once he killed the Dragon Lord, he just, like, left it in the fucking throne. And he's like, you can have it back. I wish to return it to you. But it's not the actual Sword of Erdrick. It's, like, the Sword of Erdrick, but it's, like, all rusted and needs to be, like, redone and stuff. So we're going to have to do, obviously, go on, like, a side quest to get that fixed later. It's lost a lot of its luster, but it's still a magical blade that has, like, powers and whatnot. So we'll get around to that someday. So let's first head over to the fairies. Up at the Shrine of Rain, there's this dark force that's guarding the way in. Like, it's like this big dome or whatever. But we use the Sword of Erdrick to, like, blast through that. After, like, the cousins mentioned that the Dragon Lord being able to banish evil according to the Dragon Lord, or that the Sword of Erdrick is able to banish evil according to what the Dragon Lord told us. Cha-ching, it works. Inside, we find some assholes trying to attack some fairies, and get all the sigils. We roll on in, kill them, save those fairies. They tell us about Rubus and the Overseer. Ooh, the Overseer. You remember the Overseer. It's my Sundari girlfriend. She's the best. Rubus is gone again, like taking a nap or some shit, or like Rubus, yeah, she's like gone again. She's always fucking gone. She's like never around to do anything whenever people need her, but yep, there you go. Anyway. And the Overseer's trapped on the top floor, so we can go check her out and save her and get some of her talk backingness, which is the best. We continue to wander up this tower, the Shrine of Rain, and kill fiends and rescue fairies. And then one of these fairies in the next level is like, it's like her name's Careless Fairy, so she has very loose lips. She spills that the only one who can tell us about the sigils, the only one who can find the sigils is the hero, and so all these fiends are retarded. And then she says we smell like heroes, so we should be good. No. Oh, sorry. They have that conversation with the fiends, like we can't tell you anything about the sigils because only the heroes can get the sigils. But don't worry, there's some heroes nearby. And the fiends are like, what? And then we roll in, we kill them. These fiends mention Atlas, who's another one of Hargon's like direct minions, and that they got to report to him at some point. We beat them up. The fairies thank us, and again we ask us to go rescue the Overseer. At the top, we see the Overseer speaking directly to us through the fiends, and the fiends get like super confused. Like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to us? They then turn and they're like, oh fuck, how did you get past the barrier? And the Overseer challenges us to defeat them. And Karadek is like, maybe act more nicely. And I'm like, don't ever act more nicely, Overseer. You're the best. The fiend then gets mad that we're all ignoring him and having a conversation and attacks. We beat his ass. The fairy Overseer talks shit about him, talks shit about us. We chat about the Dragon Lord, talk shit about him. and the sigils. Then she gives us the echo flute. The echo flute is something we can use. Every time we use it, it will help us identify where sigils are. But if you're just playing this game on like easy mode and you just have like open the map, go there, then that will also be fine that. But in the original fucking game, the echo flute was like essential, because if you didn't have this shit, you'd have no idea where you're going, and you'd play it and like it would be like, go this way. The closest, they didn't call them sigils, they call them orbs. Closest orb is like 10 degrees west, 142 degrees south, or something like that. It was excellent. Very good. In this version, it's like completely pointless. We talk about Rubus. She dodges the question, saying like not even like saying she can't answer it right now, but that's pretty much what she's trying to avoid talking about. We then play the flute. Perenelle thanks them and then asks if there's any other information we can get from them. She starts being all tsundere, which gets me hot and bothered because I love her. And then she goes off about Ortega and how she didn't get plowed by him enough, and then she stops and sends us out of there. We ask about Belial and Atlas. Then we see the monsters. Then they're like the cousins all talk about Belial and Atlas and if they're related and if they're working together or whatnot, yada yada yada. And then we get like, meanwhile, over at the monster area, we see the monsters we attacked earlier, not the ones in this tower, but the ones we attacked down in Dragonlord's castle. They're talking to some big guy. He gets mad that they failed, destroys them. This apparently is Belial. And then Hargan briefly appears and tells him to be a little more hands-on with his minions and stop giving them like kind of not a good enough advice. We then head back to us. We chat with the fairies and then head out. First stop we're going to do is we're going to head to a lighthouse south of Alfgard because there's a sigil there. We get in there. There's an old man. He's like, I'm guardian of the sigils. Join me at the top of the lighthouse and I'll give it to you and you can prove your worthiness. And then he heads up. We then head upstairs. We meet the man who's just like chilling on one of the floors. And at this point, I'm like, this dude is definitely like a fucking fiend. And he wants to follow us now, but first asks us a question about the fairies. We kind of dodge that question. Further up, we meet the old man again. We then call him out for hey, we thought you were following us. Why are you doing here? And now you're ahead of us. And he dismisses our concerns, which again is super sus. And then he tries to get more information from us, which is also super sus. And we really don't know anything. And so he storms off and we follow him. At the end of this awful dungeon that I hated, we find the sigil. There it is. It's protected by some like purple goo or something. The guy is there and he wants us to tell him everything we know about Rubus. We're like, no, go fuck yourself. And then he tries to backstab like the main character and Perenelle, but unfortunately Karadak's like paying attention for the first time and he saves us. Karadak then mentions how obvious his tells were, and they knew he was like a bad guy all along. So we fight him, we break the barrier, we kill him, we break the barrier with the sword of Erdrick, and then we get the star sigil, the first sigil. Awesome. Our next stop is the town of Zahan in the far southeast of the ocean. Once there, we find a fishwife whose husband Sylvester has not returned in a while. We offer to help find him, since helping people is part of like the reason we're out here, not just get sigils. So we go check out some of their boat guys. We really start talking about mermaids eating people, which is like an old tale. Keep the mermaids back. An earring was stolen and placed in a shrine on a western island, but Sylvester was like YOLO, and now he's gone. Perenelle says that she's not scared of any mermaids, obviously, because she's a woman, and their like song, and I was like, are they supposed to be mermaids or sirens? But I guess like their song can't lure her because she's got a vagina, and the song only works on penises, and so it's like, all right, sounds good. Which is based. So the guy marks our map to the location where Sylvester was headed off to when he disappeared. So we island hop a little bit. We find an area where a town guard rolls up and is like, you can't rest here. There are fiends around, and also be quiet. He then drags us down into this town called Barrowell, which is an underground city. This town is the leftovers of the Renderic town that Hargan destroyed. Hargan is like really close to here in old Renderic, where he built himself his shrine, so they hide underground here. We learn that the descendants of Erdrick, we mentioned that we're the descendants of Erdrick and that we're on a quest to destroy Hargan, so it is good to know where he's at. They say that we should stay and rest and then leave us to stay and rest. In the morning, we head back over to the mayor and his like chief of guards or whatever. They're arguing about tactics and dealing with the demons. The chief guard wants to attack. The mayor wants to try to bargain with them with one of the signal stones. Karadak agrees with the mayor. Perenelle agrees with the captain. We should kill them all, as her town was killed. So death to all infidels or whatever. We of course agree with Perenelle because fiends would definitely just take the stone and attack anyway. Then someone runs in and the monsters are at the entrance. Oh no! So Perenelle and the guard captain run upstairs. We feel Join the fiends and jump in to help. Oh, they start fighting with the fiends, and they're not doing so great, so we hop in to help. After defeating one of them, the other one begs for their life. Caradoc and Paranil go back and forth and allowing the monster to live or not, but eventually Caradoc wins out because he's a bitch. So I'm glad they did, actually. It's like, it's fine if the monster wants to just chill and not hurt anybody. So they imprison the monster. It's like Black Sanguini or some funny Italian name. Then the guard, captain, and the mayor make up. They hug it out, and they give us a letter so that we can get the sigil from the fire shrine on a different island. We then get offered to stay again at the hotel for free. Discuss. Okay, so we head over to the inn, and no one can sleep because they want to discuss what just happened. Once they're done discussing, we head over to the fire shrine and get the sun sigil. Heck yeah. It's at that point I decided to drop off some mini medals of the monarch. Or it's not called the monarch of medals anymore. It's like the sultanate or something different. So we do that, and then we head our way out down to the mermaid area. As soon as we get there, so we go to Baron, which is near where the mermaids supposedly appeared. And Caradoc like runs off because this whole town's like very luxurious. We look around and talk to Paranil and Caradoc and stuff, and then we hear a man screaming, "Oh no!" And it's this aged priest guy. He's being attacked by a fiend, so we rush over to aid him. He mentions Lord Pazuzu, so that's number 3. That's Atlas, Belial, Pazuzu, and when he does, Caradoc taunts him, and the fiend blasts him with dark energy before dying. We defeat him, and then Caradoc taunts him, and then he gets blasted with like dark poison energy, and then the monster dies. We then take Caradoc over to the priest. We take him to the inn. We bring the priest over, and we stay all night with him, and the priest does what he can, but he can't heal him. He can't get better. Caradoc is like, "I'm dead, fellas. Just tell my family I love them." And Paranel's like, "Stop being such an asshole." And the priest is like, "There's nothing that can help." And Caradoc's like, "Please go see my parents and tell them I love them." And it's like, holy shit. And then Paranel is convinced that there has to be a way to cure him. And then she remembers. So she does agree to go see his parents and get help, not eulogies, is what she says. The priest then agrees to watch over Caradoc while we journey. So to Cannock, we return. As we arrive in Cannock, Paranil worries about leaving Caradoc, but we assure her he will be all right. Meanwhile, we jump back over to the H-Priest, who's questioning whether he should have said something to us or not. Back to us, we approach the king, who immediately asks about his son. The queen brings up the world tree Yggdrasil as a means of curing him. They then tell us the location, which is only known to them by some secret royal line. Again, you could just go pick this shit up anytime you want in the game, but now you have to do this whole bullshit side quest. They don't know where the location is. Only someone of the royal line of Renderek knows where the location is. They then talk about sending someone to watch over Caradoc. The whole time, Matilda is watching secretly, and so when we decide to go back to check on Caradoc, once we get there, we find this girl harassing the locals, and it's Matilda! Excellent! Oh, she's so great. Paranil is like, "What are you doing here, friend?" And Matilda's like, "I'm just hanging out." Okay, fine. She's here to save her brother. She shouts about Yggdrasil. "Hey, do you want Yggdrasil? Blah, blah, blah." And then the priest comes out and gets us, and he's like, "Can we talk inside?" And he's like, "Please stop shouting about Yggdrasil." What you got to do is you got to get a leaf from the tree of Yggdrasil, which only falls like once every 100 years, and then he tells us the location. At that juncture, Matilda's like, "Got it!" And she runs off, and Paranel's like, "That damn girl, fuck." She's got to start running off on her own. But the priest is like, "Once you're there, you're going to get lost unless you have this." And he hands us this thing called the Forest Favor, which is what we used before. Did we use it before? I feel like we've used this thing before. We used it somewhere. So then we head over to Yggdrasil's arbor, and we find Matilda just completely lost and stumbling around in the mist. And Paranel yells at her for like running away from home and not listening to us, not joining us. And she's like, "But I'm so bored, and Daddy's boring, and I hate sitting around." And then she's like, "But don't worry, I left a letter. They're going to know where I'm at." So then finally we convince Matilda to join up with us, which is perfect. But again, this is another part where she just kind of does whatever she wants, while me and Paranel do most of the heavy lifting. She then brings up her lineage. It's the same as ours and all this stuff. And then Paranel is finally like, "All right, fine. We wander in. We find the leaf at the end of this like very windy dungeon. And after the fog clears, with the forest favor, of course. Then we immediately head back to Baron, where the girls make tea with the leaf, because that's what women are good at, is making tea. That they administered. Immediately, Karadak's back to his regular health. He gets up, and Paranel gets real emotional. Karadak apologizes for being an asshole, and she's like, it's not okay. Then Matilda rails into him, and then she's like, all right, let's go, compatriots. And Karadak's like, sis, what are you doing here? You need to go home. And she's like, nope, not doing it. And Paranel is also like, she can come. So Matilda gets super happy and officially joins the party, which means we can now control her. Yes! And get her better equipment and all that good stuff. We then chat with the priest. He has some concern. He was concerned we would never return and we wouldn't survive or anything. But that we appear to truly have hero's blood in our veins. He mentions that he fell into temptation years ago following the darkness and stuff, and that he's kind of been repenting by doing the whole priestly thing and whatnot. He then gives us a letter so that we can get into Durkander and see the king there. And then we all are headed out to head over to Durkanter, help the mermaids, or find the mermaids, or find Sylvester finally after doing like 14 other things or whatever we're going to do. But then Paranel's like, hey, I'm going to stay here for a minute. So we all head outside and we're chit-chatting and whatnot, and then she pops out. Karadak and Matilda argue some more about how he's a goofball, and then Paranel comes out and finally is like, all right, let's go. And like, what were you doing? And then Matilda like slaps Karadak in the back of the head. He's like, she was apologizing for how bad you acted and for causing so many troubles. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. And he's like, I'm pretty messed up. So we're gonna do the mermaids first because we're right here now. So right by Barrett is this rock structure where the boat guy in Zarin told us to go to find the mermaids. So we head over there. We get attacked by some monsters immediately. No mermaids, though. And then we land and search around. Then we hear a voice talking about killing monsters. Another voice and the first start arguing about trusting humans. Our crew is all like, what the hell? We call out to them, and they're the mermaids. They are actually super nice. They don't eat humans or anything crazy, that guy said. So they thank us for killing the monsters and making their area a little nicer to live in. They mentioned that they had rescued Sylvester from the monsters along with all his friends. One of them calls out the other for seducing him and having sex, probably. And then everyone, but they do mention that after a while, everyone returned safely and that they were just waiting because Sylvester said he was going to return. And at first, Sylvester didn't want to return because he wanted to stay with like Mel, the mermaid, or whatever her name is. And then Matilda is all about like finding out more about this and flaming those fans of passion. Paranel interrupts the mermaids discussing the mermaid's crush, and then Karadak says something about Sylvester's wife and child, and this gets Mermaid like super upset. So Matilda takes him off to yell at him for like ruining her hopes. And then the mermaid who was in love copes, and then we leave. We head back to Zarin and we see everyone returned. We talk to Sylvester and hint about the mermaid situation as his wife is like right there. We don't say it out directly. He still wants to do something nice for the mermaids, even though he's not going to go back to have sex with the mermaid anymore because he's got his wife and kid here. So he sends us to visit a local shrine to get the earrings that they used to use to keep the mermaids away, as well as some claws that I'm way overpowered for at this juncture. Once we head over there, we find some monsters, so we stomp them like real fucking good, and then we take the earrings back to the mermaids. They say that the queen has one just like it, and Paranel apologizes for making her sad, and the mermaid is like, nah, I'm fine. And then Paranel hugs her out because that's what girls do. And then the mermaid starts crying, and then Matilda starts crying, and then she hugs the mermaid too, and then all the girls are like crying and stuff, and then Karadak and us are just like, okay. Like bitches, I guess. With that all sealed and deal, it's off to Durkander. Dick Kander. Dirk? Is it just Dick Kander? I think it's Dirk Kander. I don't remember. Anyway, so we learn once we get there that the king loves strength and that he loves to challenge people all the time. He has like a little tournament area in his like castle and he wants to find the weakest and stuff. But even though he challenges the strong and gives them a real hard fucking time, he's really nice to weak people. So we head up there, we show them the Sword of Edric to get past the first guards, and then we get in and the counselor's like, you can't be in here. And we're like, here, take this from this priest guy. And he looks at it, he's like, oh, come this way, the king will see you immediately. And it's like, awesome. So we chat about how he has followed our exploits because he's like a master of like information gathering and he's got all these like agents out and about. He talks about how the false Paranel and the sigils, and he has one, but he won't give it to us unless we show him how strong it is. We are. So let's do it. So we fight through 3 waves of guys and include a pretty tough final battle with the king's like cat, which is like a giant tiger monster. Afterwards, he gives us the sigil and tells us that we need to get even stronger, though he is impressed with how far we've come. We rest, and while we're resting here in Durkander, we hear the voice of my Sundari girlfriend calling for aid at the Shrine of Rain. When we arrive back in the Shrine of Rain, our tsundere fairy girlfriend really goes off at us. She's all mad. She complains about the Shrine of Rain, tells us that we're too scrawny. Then she tells us that the fairy queen is down at the fairy palace. She wants us to go check it out, see if the queen is okay. She then tells us that the palace is hard to get to because humans are stupid, baka, and so we need is the fairy trumpet. Apparently, Perenelle can play the trumpet, so that's cool. Her and Matilda start talking about it, and then the overseer gets like mad because they're ignoring her. And then she tells us that they don't actually have the fairy trumpet here, that it's held by the mermaids. So we got to go back to the rock. There, we start to explain that we need the horn. When Mel Mel is the mermaid, my favorite mermaid, it's just like, I'll go get it. And she just leaves and comes back. And she's like, here you go. And then we're like, Nani desu ka? I thought you had to ask the queen's permission and all this stuff. And she's like, oh yeah, the queen and all her retinue and guards and everybody in the town are gone. So I just took it. And we're all like, that doesn't seem right. And she's like, wait, that doesn't seem right. Oh, well, we got what you gonna do about it? So we get the horn. And sorry, I'm turning on a road. I'm just making sure I'm not going to crash. Excellent. Okay. So we get the horn, and then we head over to that big lake. Remember that big lake I told you by Canik that I told you would come back to with the bridge that crosses over to nothing? Well, it crosses over to the fairy palace. So Perenelle blows the horn, and the palace appears. She then sees it's on fire. Holy shit. So we rush in. At the top of the palace, we find Belial attacking the fairies who are protecting themselves with a large shield. He taunts them, and then we rush in, we argue with him, and we're like, hey, you're the guy who sent the dudes to the Dragon Lord, fuck you, and then we attack. After beating him up, he tells us that one of his compatriots is attacking the mermaids, and then leaves. Why would he do this? No idea. Apparently they don't get along. Apparently all the minions of Hargon, like, evil will fall upon itself. Thank you, Dragonlance. He then, leaves. Then the queen tells us that she is Dream Whisperer. Yes, she's the one who's been talking in her dreams. She's the fairy queen. It's the same lady as always. And we identify her as the one who's spoken to us in her dreams. Also, she mentions that Rubus is asleep, as we already know, talking to just random people about it. She then gives us Lorelai's harp. So the mermaids had the fairy trumpet, and then they had Lorelai's harp, which is like the magic item for the mermaids, right? And what this harp allows, it allows us to travel underwater so we can go visit the mermaids. Awesome. But first, we can't just use it. We got to get the mermaid's blessing. So the blessing is a kiss. Nice. So back to the rock. So we go back to Galgo Rock. Yes, that's the name of the rock that the mermaids live in. And we see if they will give us the blessing. And that after we take care of protecting the mermaid queen, we will. Dream Whisperer wants us to come back and talk to her and help us with like the next step. So we head over there. One of the mermaids is at the rock. The other one went back to the town and is like missing or something. She talks about how their home got invaded, and then she was the one who was able to escape, and then everyone else ran to like the mermaid sanctuary, and that we can go please help Mel Mel and our friends and stuff. And we're like, we want to help, but we need a blessing. And she's like, done. And she's like, come here, big boy. And so we walk up and she kisses our hand, and then she kisses Perenelle's hand and everyone's hand, and then Perenelle plays the harp, allowing us to finally access the underwater level of this game, which I don't remember. I think we could go underwater in the original game. I just don't remember. Anyway, as soon as we sink the ship, Mel Mel shows up. She tells us, or as soon as we get to the town, Mel Mel shows up, tells us that everyone else in the is at the sanctuary, that she was able to escape because she wanted to leave to find her best friend. And then Matilda gets super mad about the monsters attacking the mermaids because mermaids are awesome and fuck those guys. Right, Matilda? Preach. Once we actually get over to the sanctuary, which is quite a far distance, impressed Mel Mel was able to make it this far with all the fiends in the water. Anyway, Matilda gets mad again, which is hot, at the fiends for transgressing such a beautiful place. Perenelle talks to her about restraining her anger so she can be more effective in combat and calm. So she takes a breath, and we proceed. We find some mermaids hiding out in rooms kind of all around the sanctuary, and then we come across a trio that is being harassed by some asshole octopi. We kill them, and they thank us and tell us that there are others, including the queen, who ran off as well and needs rescuing. Further on, more mermaids are getting assaulted. We save them, and they tell us the queen is just a little bit further ahead. Also, we find the leader of the fiends. She is a real asshole. Attacks her own kind. Perenelle mentions that this is good info to have, that they are not united. When we finally get to the queen, we find like this toad monster telling Mariella, I think is her name, that Belial wants the queen alive, and then Mariella's like, oh, he can go fuck himself. She's more beautiful than me, and she must die. Matilda shouts out and threatens her. She taunts us, and then the queen taunts her, and then this chick, who is like Hargon's right-hand girl or whatever, the woman of wars are like, oh, and then, hold on, the women, someone says something about not killing or something. Oh yeah. Her minion talks about how they can't kill the queen and all this stuff. They argue for a little bit. This really pisses Mariella off, and then she sends her minion off to fight us. After we beat his ass, the Toadman then and he's like a Toadman. The Toadman begs for help from Mariella, and she's like, "How about this help?" And she blasts everybody with like this crack spell, like the super crackle or whatever. And we're able to like dodge out of the way. The queen's protected by like magic, but her toad friend dies, and then she like nopes out of there. So once the queen is rescued that way, hold on, I need to get over here. Okay. Matilda starts laughing like a creep, and we're like, "Girl, now is not the time or place for this situation." And she's like, "No, I'm laughing because we were able to go toe to toe with Bargain's like minions and win twice." And then she brings this up a lot. She talks about how they're like bickering and they always fight with each other, and that, you know, friendship is magic, so we definitely have an edge there. They have no unity, no friendship or whatever. And then the queen asks us to meet her back at Myrsa, the mermaid town. She wants to give us an award for saving all the mermaids in the sanctuary. Back over at Myrsa, Matilda gets excited again to see all the mermaids there. She runs around, she wants to play. Perennial also wants to explore and heads off. And so we chat with everybody. They tell us how they have changed and gotten stronger. Perennial, who was so full of hate, but is now filled with love. Then we go see the queen, who has returned. We apologize for taking the horn, and then Melmo apologizes because it's actually her who took the horn, not us, right? And the queen's like, "That's fine, everything worked out, you were save us." She then takes the harp and combines it with the pearl from the earring that we got before, and she gives it back to us along with the magic key. Nice, finally got the fucking magic key. So then we head back to the fairies. There we learn that Erdrick, along with Rubus, created the sigils, I remember doing that. And that they were, and then Perennial mentions that we still need 2 more sigils, and the queen is like, "There are other things you need to do as well to awaken her, but we'll deal with that later." Perennial then mentions that she thinks Marilia had a sigil pinned to her lapel, so that's one sigil. What about the other? Matilda then mentions that the king Dirkander may know. He did boast a lot about knowing a lot of things. And then the fairy queen encourages us to, "You're going to do a great job. I believe in you guys. Head out there, make it happen." But before we can finally nope out of here and go find more of these sigils, this other fairy, like bookkeeper fairy or something, is like, "Oh hey, can I have permission to tell them about stuff?" And the queen is like, "Permission granted." And so she takes us to like this, it looks like a tomb, like a gravestone. It looks like a gravestone. And she mentions that she's a collector of memories, and then shows us that there are memories stolen, probably by Marilla, and that there are 7 memories, and if we can go get them back, that would just be great. And it's the memories of like Rubus in the land or something. And so we head out to the mermaids to see if we can get an upgrade for our diving, since some of the memories that we need to get that are like highlighted in the game are in like the deep ocean, and we are not allowed to get there yet. And they don't do anything, so we're like, "Oh yeah, this is not what we're supposed to do now. I'll just follow the fucking game." Instead of exploring and trying new things and trying to get ahead, or just trying to like chart my own course, fucking Dragon Quest 2, a 2D, 3D remake, I'm going to do exactly what you say. I'm just going to follow the main fucking story quest, like a goddamn erotic visual novel that won't let me do side quests to like continue the main story quest. Fuck you, game. Anyway, so we head over, let's see, so they're like, "Oh, blah, 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 go fuck yourself." Okay, unfortunately, they do nothing, so... but the Mermaid Queen does mention that they did track Marilla, and that she puts her little like location on the map so we can go get that sigil from her, and she asks us to be careful. But before we do that, we head over to the King of Dirkander, who tells us about a thief's encampment near Moonahan, where bandits are looking for magic stones. So they may have some inkling as to where to look for these sigils, since that's kind of what they're looking for. So first thing we do is we head over to this deserted town near Moonahan, where the thieves are been hiding out, and it's completely abandoned. But as we're walking around looking for stuff, we hear some noises, and then we move some stuff and find that there's a staircase going down. So we head down there, and then we find some fiends tormenting a thief and like his buddy. So we challenge them. They mention Atlas again. They say they're just here to get their stuff back, and we fight them and beat their asses. When we're done beating asses, we find out the thief's gone, but his little friend is still there, and we find out that they're not actually friends. Oh yeah, we also find a key to like the hideaway. His friend tells us that he's just a really good guy getting information, and that he discovered that this group of people had the sigil, and he was like trying to sell it to like the highest bidder. This guy promised him the most amount of money. Now he owes him a bunch of money, but he like jotted off. And so we're like, you should probably just let that go, brother. And he's not going to give you any money. And he's like, "Oh shucks, what am I supposed to do now?" And then we're like, "Hey, just so you know, the king of Durkander pays a lot of money for people to like get him information. And you seem really good at getting information, so maybe you should go do that. And he's like, I'm gonna do that. But before I go, I just want to let you know that guy, he used to be a courier in Moonahan. So if you're looking for him, he's probably up there. And this key will probably unlock that area for him. It's really cool. And so we head over to Moonahan, and there's like a locked location. We head in there, we find like this huge thieves like area. And then inside, while we're walking in there, we hear the petty thief like arguing with a priest who is like one of Hargan's children, and they're talking about how if he gets the sigil, he's gonna like give a cure to like the sister, but then like the sister might not be healed. Maybe the fiend doesn't know, maybe doesn't want to, and they get like really kind of heated. And we roll up, and it's like, fuck this guy. And then the priest turns into a fiend. He's like, fuck you. And so we kill him. And then after that, we start reasoning with the thief. That he was, he knew kind of that he was working with the fiends and doing bad stuff, and it was all to get like his sister healthy. And so he feels real bad about the whole situation because, he shouldn't have like followed the fiends and all that bad stuff. And he, tells his whole story about like how Pazuzu like slowly corrupted him and made him do all these bad things. And, he but he kept being like, it'll be okay as long as my sister gets healed. But eventually his sister's just going to die. Right. And finally he's like, you know what, I'm going to make up for all the bad things I did. Here's the sigil. And I guess my sister's just dead. And then Perenelle tells us, as she kind of takes us aside, and she's like, hey, I got something I want to discuss with the group. And she like pulls out this thing, and it's some of the Yggdrasil tree tea that they had left over. And then she's like, when I went back to talk to the priest, it wasn't to like say thank you, it was to offer him this. But then he said he didn't want it because it should go to someone younger who has like more life left to live. And so I still have some, so what should we do? And so we all decide we're gonna give it to the thief to give to his sister, because he did the right thing at the end, and we're like a forgiving lot. And so we're like, cool, sounds good. So we give it to him, and then we talk about the factions of the enemy's camp. So there's Pazuzu, Atlas, Belial, and Marilla, right? And how they all fight against each other, and everyone's against each other, and all that stuff. So let's go head over to Marilla and see what's going on over there. So Marilla's place is underwater, which is a good thing that we can go underwater now. We go through a little cavern and everything, and finally we find her. She's complaining about not being able to move to the mermaid sanctuary and how much more beautiful it is there than here, and she doesn't like it here, and yada yada yada. She goes to open her room, and then the minions like lock her in her room by taking 3 key pieces from the door, and we just kind of like watch the whole thing. And then Matilda gets an idea. She's like, hey, maybe we should pretend to be Belial's forces attacking here, because that would be totally believable because they all hate each other, and then we can sneak in and be a little more sneaky-potamus about finding the key pieces. So it's like, cool, everyone agrees that's a great plan, so let's go explore and do that. Now if you thought this level was going to be anything else besides just a regular dungeon where we have like a little bit extra story that just wastes my time, you would be wrong. That's all it is. It's a dungeon. Nothing changes. Like we fight some guy, we kill him, and then we like find some sort of like archaic like cell phone device or like tubing device where you can like speak into one, and we're like, oh no, Belial's attacking, help. And Belial's like, I'm attacking, I'm gonna destroy you all. And then a couple of like the bad guys like leave, and then that's it. And then we just kill like 2 more guys, get their stones. And then we head over to, let's see, fuck the mermaids, a speaking tube. Yep, we did that. All right, and so then we head over to the door, and when we get there, we find Marilla is in her lair, like packing things up, getting ready to escape from Belial because fuck that guy. And then Matilda calls her out for being a bitch. We reveal that we were just fucking with her. There's no Belial anywhere here. And then Perenelle and Karadak mention how terrible of a leader she is, and she's gonna just like bounce on all her teammates and stuff. And then she starts drawing all this dark energy, and she's crying about how she needs no one but Hargan and all this stuff. And so we beat that ass. We talked to her about wanting the stone on her lapel, and if she gives it to us, we'll let it live. And then she mocks us, tosses the sigil, and like teleports away. And then we talk about how she has no idea that Hargan is looking for the sigils, which is interesting. So he's keeping that stuff close to the chest. But now that we have them all, we can head back to the fairies. So the fairy queen congratulates us on getting the sigils, then tells us that the next step is to get the fairy flute. Also, we need to find a way to get into Renderik, because it's like surrounded by mountains and tons of fiends everywhere and stuff. So there's got to be like a secret tunnel or something. If we could figure that out, that'd be great. So we think back to our friend, the monster friend in Burrowville. But first we're going to go to Cantillon, where the fairy flute was left last. There we find the protector of the town, and we ask him about it, and he gives us information about his older brother who absconded his duties and also absconded with the fairy flute and headed out. And the last place he was headed was to Tantagel. As soon as we get up to Tantagel Castle, the guy comes running out, and the counselor of the castle, like the chief counselor, is like running after him, and he tells us that he does not have that he tells us that he does have the fairy flute, that he inquired with, the counselor. So the guy runs off, and the counselor comes out, and we start talking to him, and he tells us that the guy brought the fairy flute, and then he inquired with the king about places where Erdrick visited, and then he ran off. He informs us that he is going to Cole, which is the hot spring place where we found the fairy flute, like in the first game originally. And so we head over there, we find him, he's just standing by the hot springs. As soon as he sees us, he runs off and he drops the fairy flute right where it was in the previous game, like in the exact same location. So we pick it up, and then he comes like wandering back, and he complains that like he needed the fairy flute and he wanted to like take the paths of Erdrick because he's a terrible guardian because he can't use magic. And then we're like, bro, I can't use magic, I'm the best. And then Perenelle and Matilda and Karadak are all like, yeah, he is the best and he can't use magic. And he's like, wait, you don't use magic, but you're a scion of Erdrick. And we're like, yeah, it's not a big deal, man. You can just like, you made it all the way over here. There's tons of fiends everywhere and you survived with no magic. Like, I think you're going to be okay. You should go back home and like do your thing. And then he gets excited, shakes all our hands. We chat a little bit, and he's like, keep the flute. And he leaves. So cool, we got the flute. Next thing, we need to find a way into Renderak. So we head over to Burrowville. And we visit our old friend, Black Sanguini. He has earned the trust of the people, and the cell is now his home. He just likes chilling there. The door's unlocked, and he can leave and come and go whenever he wants. So we're like, cool, that's great. And he's very grateful for us saving him and not killing him. We talk about how to get to Renderak, and then we also talk about forgiveness, like him being forgiven, and about becoming friends. And Perenelle's like, I don't know if I can do that right now, but maybe later. And he's like, I'm going to do everything I can to convince you that we can be friends. And I'm going to go find a way into Renderak for you guys that humans can take, and I'll meet you back here. But if you could do me one favor, I'd really appreciate it. I got a buddy back here, Rog. He has some like needs. So if you can help him with his needs, I would very much appreciate that. Let's see. Okay, so we go and talk to Rog, and he mentions that his hometown there's like a problem going on there, and if we can go fix it, because there's some like nearby priests in the Tower of Moon who are being assholes, and the name of the town is like Sluice or whatever, and he gives us a key for the floodgate, because the floodgate, he locked off the floodgate so the Tower of Moon couldn't like affect his town. But if we want to get there and like save all the people, we got to go back and kind of figure that out. And then, so we're like, cool, yeah, we'll do that. So as we're leaving, Matilda and Perenelle talk about how the guy, Rog, was acting like very strange. Like he was not talking like a normal person, and that was very unusual. So they were not like big fans of that whole situation. So we head up to Sluice and the floodgate and everything, and this like crashed my game like nonstop. It was kind of wild. Like like anytime I try to reload like town map, I had to reload it like 3 or 4 times before it like successfully load, and it would just like crash out. Not even just the game, like it would crash out like OMB and like or OBS and all this stuff. I was like, what the fuck, man? Oh well. So that took a minute to get in there. But when we first entered the town, we see like the mayor, and he's having to deal with these people, and everyone's acting like kids. So people go to like the Tower of the Moon, and then when they come back, they act like children, right? Which I distinctly remember that from like the original game. So that's kind of cool. And so they run around and stuff, and the mayor apologizes, mentions the Tower of the Moon, and then after finally pushing through all the crashes, I'm able to get the floodgate open, and so we can wander all the way back through this like maze of land to get to our boat, and then we take the boat to the Tower of the Moon, or the Moon Tower. Whew. All right. As soon as we get in there, we find some non-children adults getting threatened with death by a fiend. And so we just roll the fuck in, kill that guy. And then afterwards, the villagers leave. We talk about how bad the fiends are, and then we head up the tower. At the top of the tower, we find a servant of Pazuzu trying to fuck with the people. He has a crystal that gives him the power of suggestion, so that's how they've been convincing people that they're kids, like fuck with them and stuff. So we kill him, but then the crystal gets like gonked out of there back to Pazuzu's lair. So we're gonna have to go trace that down to complete the task that was given to us by Black Sanguini. But we find a moonstone, so we go back to Burrowville and check with our monster friend. He tells us that he found a path, but we tell him we want to go destroy the crystal first. And then he mentions that to get to Pazuzu's lair, we'll need the moon shard, because that will like allow us to push down rocks that get in the way of us going to certain places. And it's like, hey, we got the moon shard. That's excellent. So then we talk about going to Durkander again, because the king will somehow know something that we need to help us get to Durkander. to get to Hargon. And then Matilda and our new friend get super kawaii about like, oh, you're so cute. Oh, you're so cute. You're the best. I love you. You're the best. And then he mentions that there's a teleporter near Renderek, but you need a statue of Pazuzu, and that we can get that from Pazuzu's lair. He then leaves to go check on some more stuff. So we head over to Dirkhander, talk to the king, and we tell him what we know, and he says that he will test us himself. And we're like, what, we're going to fight you? And so we do, and he's pretty tough, no lie. But his whole thing is like, if I demand people be strong, I must be the strongest, and you must be, if you can beat me, then you can surely beat Hargon. And it's like, fair, I guess. So we fight him, and finally he tells us that the Prince of Renderok is the only one who knows how to get to Renderok, and that he's still alive. And we're like, oh. And he's like, you already know him? And like, we do? And he's like, yes, he's the one who sent you here. And it's like, oh, fuck, it's the old man priest. He's the prince. That makes sense, because when we were talking to Matilda's parents about their Yggdrasil tree, she said only like the people of like Renderek knew about like the Yggdrasil tree, and he knew about it. So, yep, that makes sense. It all tracks. So, we head over to the little priest and we talk to him, and he tells us about the entrance to Renderek, which is like through this church. There's a teleporter that will get us over there. Oh, no. Wait, hold on. No, okay, Dirkhander tells us this, so then we gotta head back to Baron to talk to the old priest. So we find our old man friend. He's lying in bed, like, just chilling. He's kind of dying, actually. So we tell him what we know and about the King Dirkhander sent us and all this stuff, and then we get, like, a flashback, which is, like, it's fine, but, again, it's, like, one of these things, like, I don't need this. And it's this whole thing about how, like, he was defending the people with some guards and killing fiends, and they ran off, and then one of the guards got, like, super mad. It's like, it's all your fault this is happening. You royals should have saved us, and we shouldn't have left us to, like, die or something. And then he pushes him against, like, a rock, and he cracks his head and like passes out, and then he wakes up later and like all the guards are dead and all the monsters are gone, and he's like, no. And so he got really like bitter and angry, kind of like Paranel at the beginning of this game, towards the fiends, and just wanted them all to die and was just miserable. And later on he realized it was just like, this is Hargon trying to make people miserable and feel terrible, because he's like the literal Judeo-Christian Satan and all this stuff. And now he knows that it was Hargon setting all this stuff up. And so he's finally like, consulted himself, and he realized that he had to stay alive, and that someday he would tell a hero how to get back to Renderek, and that hero would be the one who'd get revenge for him. And then he'd almost given up hope before we rolled up and like saved him earlier in this game. So we then stand in a circle with him and hold hands, and he imparts us like the gift, the blessing of Renderek, so that we can get through the door in the back of the church here. And that will allow us to get on a teleporter, which will take us over to the path, which will get will get us to Hargon once we get the statue of Pazuzu, and then use that to unlock the whole thing. Okay, okie dokie. And then he's like, all right, time to die. And then Paranel's like, you better fucking not. And he's like, excuse me? And she's like, you better stay alive, motherfucker. Like, you've been alive this long. Like, we're gonna go take care of this. So you just stay alive, and then you can finally say world to Hargon. And he's like, all right, I'll do my best. And she's like, don't do your best. Don't try, just do, right? Like Yoda. And so we head back through the back of the church, and we take the teleporter to Renderek, and we're there. We're like, awesome, nice. And then our homie, the little monster, Black Sanguini, is fighting some like lion monster, and he wins, but then he got like juked up, and so he's super injured. And so we run forward, and then Paranel's like trying healing him, and then Matilda tries healing him, and he's like, goodbye, sweet world. And they're like, no, you can't die, you're our friend. And he's like, oh, I'm so happy you finally decided we were friends. And then everyone starts crying except me, because I'm the only one who's not a bitch. Karadak's clearly a bitch. So and the other girls, I mean, obviously they got vaginas, and so they all cry and a bunch of bitches, am I right? And then we bury him, and then they swear no more death by Hargon. We will save people, and we will not let this bullshit happen anymore. So at that point we walk out, and then it's like, okay, I need the statue to get any further in here. So we go out, we grab a couple memories, and then we go over in like the non-deep part of the water, and then we go over, use the moonstone to like lower the little rock area in front of Pazuzu's cavern, so we can head in there, and it's a volcanic cavern. That's cool, whatever. And then Matilda flips out at Karadak, because that's their brother and sister. That's what she does. All right, so we work our way down to like this very deep cavern, and like this was just a volcano in the original game. There was no Pazuzu or any of that bullshit. I mean, Pazuzu might have been a boss at the end of the level, but it wasn't all this story bullshit. But it's a lot of like, we gotta like walk through lava, a lot of lava fighting, a lot of volcano fighting, whatever. We finally get to the bottom, and we see Pazuzu yelling at his minions and ordering them to like open up his secret chamber of like presents. And it's just like it's like this cage in the back of his like main cavern, and it's just full of bananas and like a treasure chest with some awful cursed armor. And so we go get the bananas. We're like, this motherfucker is just like hiding bananas over here. And he's also got the crystals just sitting there as well. So we're like, all right, time to prep. So we prep a little bit. We run in. We argue with him about the minions of Hargon and how they're all assholes and stuff. And then he blasts his minions away and then he powers up and we fight. After his defeat, he's like, I'll see you again. And we're like, God damn it, of course he will. And then he switches places with like a minion and teleports out of there. And the minion's like, please don't hurt me. I don't care about that asshole. I'm glad you killed him. And we're like, all right, that's fine. And so just give us the orb and the statue. So he does. So we smash the orb and then we take the statue. We're like, good stuff. So now we got everything we need to get to Hargun. But first, back to the ferries. So the queen tells us that we're almost ready, but that Rubus slumbered. This is one of those parts where I was like, all right, fucking finally, I can go to the last dungeon, or the second to last dungeon, which is like a super long, awful dungeon, and then it'll get us into like the main area with like the Winterland and like the hardest part in the game. And back in the day, that was like, this game like crushed souls, this last part. And I was like, I don't know how I did it when I was like, I don't even know how old I was, 12 years old or something, when this game came out. Like, this game, like, crushed dreams, man. Like, I would talk to people like, hey, you didn't beat this game. I cannot believe you. And it's like, no, man, I just grinded for hours and hours and hours and hours till I was strong enough to just, like, power through. And then I just used a lot of herbs and shit. And no magic. Anyway. And we're like, hooray, let's go do it. And she's like, well, one more thing first. And I was like, God damn it, game. And it's that Rubus is sleeping under the waters in the deep, deep water. And I forgot, we haven't got to the deep, deep water yet, so obviously we got to take care of that. And she's covered by a barrier. And it's like, cool, can you undo that barrier? Nope. We have to go to the Mermaid Queen to activate the barrier. Why we activate the barrier? Because we can activate the barrier, then we can disactivate it, or we can get through it or something. I don't know. And then I'll wake her up. So she says she wished she could help. Oh, so we head back over to the Mermaid Queen, and we're like, hey, we need your help doing this. After my game crashed out like 4 times. And then she's like, I wish I could help, but I'm missing a pearl. And we're like, obviously you're missing a pearl, so we got to go another fucking side quest. And we're like, what about that one we gave you earlier? And she's like, that's only one. There were 2. Let me tell you a tale. And I was like, please don't. And of course she starts telling it to us and the game crashes. So now I log back in. Jesus Christ. And she's like, oh, okay, so once upon a time, a very naughty mermaid, aka me, fell in love with a human, and like I was so in love, I like stole the pearls and like brought them over here so that we could each have one. And then I found one day that he was gonna, like, him and his dad were planning on like capturing the mermaids and selling them into slavery or something. And I was so angry, and I just was alas and sad forever. And then one day I was like, no more humans ever again. And then I saw a human who was shipwrecked, and I saved him, and then I gave him the pearl that I had because I was like, fuck this pearl. Oh, I did such a terrible thing. I knew that someday the hero would come and we need both pearls, but I did nothing with them. And we're like, well, we got one pearl. Maybe this guy's still alive. Do you know where he was at? What town he was from? We can go track him down. And she's like, no, alas, all right, I'll tell you. I know exactly what happened. He was on a ship that crashed, and now it's sunk in the bottom of the ocean, so you can go get it from there. And she's like, I'd go get it, but the monsters. Oh, I lied again. Oh, no joke, that's what she says. It's like a fucking telenovela. She's like, oh no, I lied to you again. I just don't want to go because it hurts my heart too much. And we're like, okay, goddamn, just where's it at so we can go get it? And she's like, okay, I'll tell you. But I'm so sad. And just bring me that back, and I'll fix the harp so you can go in the deep, deep water and then activate Rubus and wake her up, or the Magic Knight Ray Earth or some bullshit or whatever. I'm like, god damn it, mermaids. So we find this shipwreck. And it's a disaster. It's a total mess. On there, we find the pearl, and we also find the dead guy, and a letter to the queen from her ex-boyfriend. I already said that. Anyway, so he describes how he was initially going to use her for money-making when he first met her. But then the more he'd spent time with her, trying to like figure out the con and whatnot, he eventually fell in love. Then when she saw him arguing or discussing putting the mermaids into like slavery or whatever with his father, it was actually he was arguing against it. Like he had told his dad, he'd like made a plan, and then he's like, no, I don't want to do this plan anymore. And him and his dad were having like a fight about it. And so when he saw her, and she overheard like part of the conversation and got like the wrong idea, he was like heartbroken that she saw it and all this stuff and whatnot. And so he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to kill myself. So he killed himself and his whole goddamn crew to protect the mermaids. And so we take this information back to the queen. She fixes the harp with the other pearl so we can go deeper down in the water. And then we give her the letter, and we nope out before she can read it. And Karadek's like, why don't we sit there and watch her read the letter? And Matilda's like, baka! And then before we go wake up Rubus and all of this stuff, we go run around and do a whole bunch of exploring. We find like 2 storehouses. We fight like a super boss. We track down a ghost pirate ship. Then find another super boss there. Get like all the memories that I can find. I think I'm up to 6, so I'm missing 1. I'm hoping it's like in this last little Renderic spot, like after the Cave of Roan or whatever. I guess it's the Cave of Renderic in this game. But yeah. after just having like a jolly old time traveling throughout the world, looking at like areas and whatnot, we head over to Rubus's barrier, and we head in there. We're like, oh, this place is super intense. It feels like full of holy energy. I can see why like nobody was able to like penetrate into here or find this place. And then we use the sigils, and we get this cute little cutscene where the whole place lights up and opens up a path, and we start going down the path, and it's a really fucking long path. And all of a sudden, this giant like Cyclops monster drops in, and it's Atlas. Oh, that motherfucker! He was tracking us this whole time, and so now he's being sneakopotamus and coming in here. And so we go back and forth with him about how he's a big guy, but he's an asshole, and he's like, I'm gonna crush you. And we fight, and we beat his ass down, and then he's like, well, that wasn't a fair fight. You're honorable heroes. We need to have a fair fight, so we'll have this fight again some other time. Bye, adios. And he takes off, and we're like, that son of a bitch. And all these dumb assholes we gotta fight again. Once we get past that section, there's another part where we use the sigils, and this time Paranel uses the flute, and we wake up Rubus, and then she's like, ta-da, I'm the winged goddess of the land of Alfgard and all this stuff. And then we have a chit-chat, and she talks about like we see visages of like the heroes from the other two games standing there while she like speaks to us about destroying darkness and overcoming all our issues and whatnot. And then she gives us the Eye of Rubus, which is another thing we need in the future to like find our way or something. In the original game, you had to have the Eye of Rubus and like the Abomination statue, or whatever they called it in the original Nintendo release. That I remember. I don't think it was called the Statue of Pazuzu. It might have been. But we had to get both of those to open up the Cave of Roan, which is now the Cave 2 Renderrock, I guess, because that's all new stuff. Anyway, and then she asked us to pledge to her that we will not give up our life for like the cause of destroying Hargun, and we like all agree that we'll do that. And then she's like, all right, now go save the world, kiddos. And then she's like, adios. And so she takes off, and it's like, all right, it's time for Hargun finally. So we head over to the tunnel to Renderrock. In there, we fall down a hole and to like the basement level, or like the sub basement, or I don't know. There's like multiple level ones and such. So we fall to this one level. There's just a bunch of zombies down there and some chests, and then we find these tombs that were created. We're like, oh, what are these tombs? So like, oh, these must have been the priest's like fallen companions. He said he didn't give a shit about nothing. That liar. He lied to us again. What a little crafty liar. He must have cared so much despite everything he was telling us. What a sweet old chap. So now the Cave of Renderrock. This place is like a hot mess. It's not a hot mess like when I said the other place was a hot mess, it was like holy cow, this thing got like destroyed. This place is a hot mess because there's like all these places you can fall down. There's like a whole section where you gotta like figure it out. It's like a maze, and you gotta like go follow like the hints in like the map to like make sure you're going the right way, and you have to like circumvent some stuff to eventually find like your way out. And then there's like some more fallen traps and some more like a lot of mimics, and I don't think there's any Pandora boxes here. Pandora boxes are like the king mimics or whatever. And so we eventually like work our way all the way through there, and then we can finally get to the spot, and it's like, oh, I think we're finally going the right direction, because we find the armor of Erdrick here just like lying around. And then I think I finally get and also at some point I realized, because I equipped Caradak with something, and I was like, oh, god damn it, because it was cursed, and then it had like no effect, and so then I Gemini'd it, and Gemini was like, yeah, Caradak, after he gets healed by the Yggdrasil tea, he cannot be cursed. And I was like, oh damn, so I equipped him with like all my best gear, which is all cursed gear, and so he got slightly better. Like the cursed gear in this game doesn't seem as broken as it was in Dragon Quest 1, that's for sure. Anyway, we eventually get to the spot, and then everyone starts chit-chatting about, man, it's really quiet here. Caradak's like, hey, it's really quiet, Matilda, what the fuck's wrong with you? And she's like, what? I don't always talk. And he's like, yes, you do. And we're like, yes, you do. And she's like, I don't know, I was just thinking about stuff. And then for the first time in the entire game, Caradak decides he's not going to be a little bitch boy. Well, actually, the second time, when he went off on his own to like track us down, that was pretty baller. And he gives us like cool speech about like, I don't know what's gonna happen, and I know we're all afraid, but we gotta shonen anime it up, and friendship is magic, and we're gonna do this, and I know that like we all got this. And then Paranel's like, yeah, I believe in this too, and even if we never get to adventure after this, because we're all like the kings and queens of the future, and like Matilda and my character are literally a king and queen of Mendenhall, because I'm gonna marry my cousin in this game. But it'd be great if we could go adventuring again sometime. And so we keep going, and then we find this like crazy altar room, and immediately we get assailed by like darkness, and then when the darkness goes away, it's just us and some asshole gargoyle looking thing, and so we kick his ass, and then Caradak and Matilda show up, and they're like, oh man, we had to fight our monsters all on our own, but they were easy, so we came back. And we're like, where's Paranel? And right before we're about to freak out and go find her, she like slowly rolls up and is like, oh hey, I'm fine, don't worry about me, tee-hee. And I'm like, oh, this is definitely the fake princess. It might not be, but it was super sus, and like we gotta find that chick eventually, right? I mean, these games, despite like all the extra crappy story that is like very drawn it out, like all the story makes sense, and when they bring stuff up, it always gets like resolved. So it's like, well, we did talk about the fake princess a lot at some point, so like that has to be resolved at some point. I would be shocked if it wasn't. So we're working our way through this like another fucking maze, and at some point we hear a shout. And it's Paranel. Oh, it's the actual Paranel, because the one that's with us is a fake. And they go back and forth about who's the fake and who's got the proof of that. And then Kuradak's like, hey, we have like a foolproof way to find out who the actual Paranel is. And then we whip out Gwendolyn's pendant, and it's like, oh yeah, that glowed. Oh, good. I'm glad they called back to that. That's pretty fun. And so we hold it up to the fake Paranel, nothing happens. We hold it up to the real Paranel, and it shines, and it's like, ta-da! And then the fake Paranel is actually Belial. Okay, we knew that was going to come back eventually. And he's like, aha, I will destroy you, something, something, something. And he pulls off like the mark of Moonbrook that she had and tosses it. And so we fight, and we beat that ass like real fucking hard. Like I beat him in like 2 turns, and I was like, wow, those super bosses like in the pirate ship and another fucking place I went to were like 100 times harder to kill than this guy. This guy just like went down like a bitch. Anyway. He tells us that him, Pazuzu, and who's the other one? Atlas. Were all summoned by Hargon from like other worlds, and that they're like compelled to work for him, but that they were like their own lords of destruction in like their own worlds, and that none of them really want to work for him. So then he offers to like team up with us to fight Hargon, but like fuck that guy. Of course we're not going to do that. This is some stupid shit. So we're like, no, go fuck yourself. And then he teleports out of there, and he's like, you'll regret this. And I'm like, will we though? Like, you're weak as shit. Like, what could you possibly do that's going to benefit us? Okay. We then finally get into like snowy Renderik, and we find this shrine to the goddess that is like protected, and there's a priest there. And we're like, hey, how are you here at all? Like Hargon's like right there, and he's like, don't worry about it. And we're like, okay, because he heals us and lets us save. And he also gives us the ultimate key. Hell yeah. All right, time to go get all the treasure chests I've been ignoring up to now, because I just didn't want to keep going back to the same places over and over again, so we can collect all our little fun things. So we head out. We head to Kanak. We had a Kanak, and there we get the shield of Erdrick. Excellent. And then we go to Moonbrook. We have a nice little conversation with the chancellor there, and Paranel's putting on like a strong front, but about like how they're rebuilding. And she even tells us before we go to talk to him, she's like, hey, don't say anything about us fighting Hargon or going to Renderok or anything like that. I don't want to worry the people. And we're like, you're like a good queen. I mean, she's not even a princess. The rest of us are like princes and princesses, but she's legitimately like the only person around, so she's like the queen at this juncture. She just hasn't been coronated, I guess. So with that information, so we talk to him, we leave after she like checks in with them and they have a nice little conversation, and then he starts crying, and the guard's like, are you okay? And she's like, oh, the princess is so strong, and she's trying to protect us, and like we have to have faith in her, and just hopefully we just gotta pray. And then the guards and he's like, keep building the city, and so they keep working on rebuilding Moonbrook. And then after they leave, the counselor gives like a nice little prayer to Erdrick to like protect and watch over his descendant Paranel, and it's like, oh, that's sweet, that's very sweet. And then we continue our ravaging of the land of all the treasures that remain. So it's wandering around time. So we wander around, get treasures, find the last super boss, just by happenstance pretty much. Beat him, get the last memory, take it back. And for all our trouble and all these super bosses, I guess they're not really super bosses, just like other bosses. I felt like they were harder than the actual bosses in the game. Even the like quote unquote last boss, because there's like the secret last boss when you like, we'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, but they were like much more mean. Maybe I just needed to grind it out a little bit, because by the time I get to Hargon, finally, I'm going to kick the shit out of that guy. But I was probably like 10 levels higher than I am now. But yeah, we get all the memories, we take them back to the ferry, and I'm looking forward to something, and all we get was like some very mid healing spell. So this game's best like group healing spell is pretty weak ass. It's just like I can't remember what it's called. But then in Dragon Quest 3 and going onward, you can get these like omni heal spells, and they are so good. Like there's one that's like will heal everybody to full health, and it's like baller. This no. And Paranel already has this spell, so it's just like whatever. Wah wah wah. As I'm searching around for treasures and everything before I hit Hargon's place up, we end up back at Erdrick's Hollow, and it's that protector guy, the one who stole the flute and stuff, and he's like, oh, I'm so inspired, something, something, something. Maybe next I'll go to, I think it goes to Gallenholm, which is kind of like an endgame dungeon that I have no interest in going to. I looked up like the treasures there, because I was like, that's a pretty big dungeon. I don't know if I want to waste my time going over there. And there's really nothing there that really caught my eye. Anyway, so we catch up with him. He seems like he's doing better, but like I said, he goes off to do more stuff. And then we take the Mark of Erdrick, which we got at one of these places, and we go to Sanctum. Sanctum's where the Rainbow Shrine was in the previous game. And there we get the Helmet of Erdrick. And then there's a whole thing about how, like, hey, it mentions Alahan, which is the main starting town from Dragon Quest III, and also something about, I think it says Ortega as well. And they're kind of like talking about that. Oh, that must be like an ancient ancestors of ours or something. We head over to Cole, and we talk to the swordsmith there about the Sword of Erdrick, and he needs orichalcum. That's what he needs. We need orichalcum. So to find that, we have to go to Cantillon to talk to a scholar who's behind like an ultimate key door, and he mentions Robin Hood. Yes, and he says, I don't know what the orichalcum is, but the last mention of it in any of the writings is this Robin Hood guy. So maybe if you could find like a descendant of his or something. And so the guy we need to talk to is Tantagil in the prison in the church. And so we head over there, and we find that guy. I thought he was a descendant, but I think he's not actually a descendant. He's just like a mad respecter of Robin Hood's work or something. And so he tells us that the orichalcum is going to be in I think it's called the Craggy Cave or something. But he doesn't mention the Craggy Cave. That's right. He mentions that the orichalcum was captured by Robin Hood at some point, and it was kept in his secret lair. And his secret lair was in the cave where him and the hero Erdrick met. And so that's the Craggy Cave. So we head over there, we find the orichalcum, and then we take it back to the blacksmith in Cole, and he's like, oh, you got the sword, oh, I got the orichalcum, this is the great, I am so pleased that I get to live up to my ancestors' legacy, and blah, 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 blah. And we're like, sounds good, brother. And so we give him all that stuff, and then we just like putz around town for like a day, and then like the evening time we're summoned back because the sword's done, and it's badass as hell. And he's like, I'm so psyched, I feel like I've fulfilled everything I've wanted to do. And it's, we're all super happy about that, because I get a better sword from my main character. At this point in time, it is time to go finish this stupid fucking game, which is like 3 times longer than the original because of all the extra story bullcrap. So we head on over to Hargon's place. When we get there, it looks super nice. In fact, it looks so nice, it looks just like Castle Middenhall. Wait a second. And then we hear Matilda and Caradoc and Paranel all being like, oh, Moonbrook looks so completed and full. Oh, my home, Canuck, and blah, 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 blah. We're like, wait a second. And they all like wander off. And so we go talk to them. We go see our like obviously fake dad who's got like a bunny girl on his lap, and there's all these bunny girls in the room. And he's like, oh, just chill out, man. Whatever. It's been a while. Your mom died a long time ago, so I just want to get it in. And you're like, that's fair. But this is all crazy. So we wander around some more just to see if there's anything to see. Talk to our cousins. They're all like saying random bullcrap. Matilda's actually in Dirkhander as like the head of the guard or the head fighter or something, right? Because she's more of like a tomboy character. And then finally I'm like, all right, let's be done with this. So we use the Eye of Rubus, and it breaks the illusion, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, what happened? Oh, we were so enamored by like this fake reality and blah 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 blah. And then the crazy bunny girl who was like trying to get her dad to bang her, like comes rolling down, and she's like all taunting us and teleporting around and calling each person out for being like whatever. And then we start sassing her back, and of course it's Marilia. And so then we get a little background more with her, and she talks about how she was in love with Hargon and how she was like doing everything to be with him and love him, but that he didn't want to be with her. He wanted to be with like this other woman, and Mariella was like very angry about the whole situation, and he's like, leave me alone. And so then she gets super mad thinking about this, and so we attack her, or no, she attacks us. So we defeat her. She cries about Hargon never loving her, even though she always loved him, and something. And then she recalls that the love began. It's like so much fucking backstory. When she was a human. Oh, she used to be human. And she was like in a destroyed village from the fiends, most likely, or something. And she's laying there. And then Hargon found her and saved her and like helped her combine her natural affinity for sex appeal with like the force of evil or something. And so it like won her over completely. And then if only they could have been together. But alas, now she is dead. Behind Mariella, there's like this totem-looking thing, and so we got to put the statue of Pazuzu in that. And then there's like a funny little scene where like we, the main character, like put the statue of Pazuzu in there, and then it's like Caradoc gets like upset. He's like, oh man, oh shucks, I wish I could have done that. That'd have been so much fun. And then Paranel like laughs, and she's like, oh, it's so good that we can still have like a good time even though this is like horrible and dark and everything. And it was like, okay, cool. So the girls all laugh and whatever. So we roll up a few levels. We run into Atlas. Oh, that asshole. He's like, thou shalt not pass. And Matilda sasses him, and he's we beat the shit out of him, and then he gets pretty bummed out that puny humans defeated him. We then head up a few more levels. We run into our old friend Pazuzu eating bananas and stuff, and he tries to sneak attack on us first. And then we kick his ass, and as he's laying there dying, he tries to pull out like another banana to eat. Oh, no, hold on, let's see. When he shows up, before that, I'm sorry. He talks about how the whole point of like going around and corrupting people's hearts and all this stuff was to get the level of darkness like high up in the world so that Hargon can like summon more monsters. So he needed like the power of darkness in like people's hearts to summon Pazuzu and Atlas and Belial and all that. But like now he wants to summon like an even greater like evil god to like do something, and so he needs even more darkness, and it's like, blah blah blah. And then Pazuzu's like, I don't really give a fuck about any of that stuff, so whatever. And so Matilda sasses him. She does. And then after his defeat, after his defeat, oh my gosh, I like reset all the way down here, is when he tries to eat like another banana. And as a bunny girl, of course it's... Oh, okay, sorry. But he's too weak to eat like the banana, and he's very sad eponymous about it. So Matilda feels bad for him and goes and feeds him the banana, and he's like, thank you very much. And then everyone's like, all right, that was good, moving on. And then before we leave, Perenel's like, only Belial remains. And so on the next level, we see Mariella again in her like little bunny girl costume set. And so of course it's Belial. And so we get like sassed, and then there's like a whole bunch of magical attacks. We're able to like defend and block and cancel them out. And then Belial reveals himself. Matilda sasses him, and then he gives us a hard time for not being his friend or whatever. So we fight, and after his defeat, Perenelle tells him that, because there's the whole thing, it's like, are you proud of yourself now, princess? You got your revenge. It's like, I got over getting revenge back in the Cave of Renderock in this game. And that his death means, the only thing that his death means now is that there will be everlasting peace. And so she's all about that and not about this other nonsense. And then Perenelle, after we defeat, and then he disappears, and then she starts shaking with like anticipation. So we do like a whole Lord of the Rings thing where everyone puts their swords in the middle and swears and an oath that they will defeat Hargon and bring light back into the world and all this stuff, which is pretty poetious. So we finally reach Hargon. He's like praying for like the death of the world or something, and so Matilda sasses him, of course. And then he mentions that he's a servant of the Dragon Queen. And then we say everyone says like their piece, and then we beat the shit out of him like he was super easy. Like ridiculously easy. And then he gets like all excited that he can finally get his revenge on us by causing so much despair. We get some flashes of his past. It's obviously the guy from the end of Dragon Quest III, if you've been following my videos, who was like with the egg corrupting it and all that stuff, and how he talks about how he wanted to reshape the world for her, like the Dragon Queen, obviously. And then he asks, because he's dead, he's dying, he like asks forgiveness for his majesty, and then he sacrifices himself to summon this guy Malroth, who is going to like destroy the world. He's like the god of destruction, and so the whole place starts to collapse. And his soul flies up to like this crazy altar thing, and then Malroth pops in, and he's the guy. This is the guy that like Pazuzu was mentioning before. He's a big four-armed demon fish-looking monster thing. So Perenelle gives us like an encouraging speech, and then we roll in there. We kick the shit out of him, and then he does like a full heal, and it was like, oh my god. I was like, I remember this now. So in the original game, he would just like cast full heal like periodically, and so you had to like essentially like just overpower him with like pure force, or there's a spell that can like cancel magic attacks, and you have to like be using that like periodically and just hope you get lucky. Or save scum. But in this game, I guess he just like uses it one time. It's like a scripted event, and then he never uses it again. So essentially, he just has like a lot of hit points. Like the full heal is almost like it's a trick, because when you're fighting bad guys, when they get closer to death, their names will turn to like yellow, and then they'll turn red when it's even closer. And so it just kind of fucks with you in your brain, I guess. What a nightmare. Anyway, so we kill him after his death. Matilda is like, oh, we won. And then Rubus calls in, and she's like, congratulations, you've destroyed all the darkness. You've destroyed the legacy of darkness that's existed for generations. And the girls cry, because bitches, am I right? And then Kardik cried. Same reason. And then we all run off. And then after we leave, the whole place like collapses in on itself. And then we can go back to like all our friends and say hi and check up on them and see how they're doing. So I did a bit of it. I didn't go to Sluis or whatever, because every time I went into that level, it like crashed out, and I was just trying to beat this fucking game. And I probably could have just avoided going to any of these places, but whatever. I had time. So we'll cover that real quick. Okay. And you could also do this in the original game, but it was like, when I beat this game the first time, it's like a fun memory of mine, because it was like I beat it in the morning before school. Like I got up extra early so I could like finish this game, and then I had to like, I didn't have enough like didn't have a Chimera wing, or I can't remember. There was like some reason you couldn't like zoom back to the Middenhall, so I had to like walk through the cave and walk through this, and then I had to go through like I had to like get on a boat and sail all the way back to Middenhall. And my mom's like, "Hey, we're gonna be late for school," and I was like, "Almost done." And there's no quick save, auto save. There's no save scum because this was on the Nintendo. It wasn't even on the fucking Super Nintendo. And so I was like, "No, I just gotta beat this," and I did. And I think I was late for school, but it was awesome. Anyway, so we go to Kadak. Mama hugs all her children and Paranel. The king hugs everybody, tells them they're proud, blah, blah, blah. We go to Moonahan. We see the thief's sister is recovered. That's nice. At Moonbrook, all the people cheer. Paranel, the counselor gives, it's like some real grandpa vibes. He like hugs her and checks on her health, makes sure she's eating right. And she's like, "You're not even concerned that I killed Hargon." And he's like, "I don't care about that." Lots of chatting, lots of cheering. And then we see like the ghosts of her parents. And as we're leaving, she like stops and looks back. And they're like, "What, you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, nothing. Don't worry about it." Then we go to Rippleport. They're all celebrating. The Dragon Lord congratulates us. At Baron, we take the priest out of his like bed and we watch like the sunset, and he's super happy about all that. And then he dies, so we bury him, which is kind of sad. Over in Zehan, Sylvester and his wife have like had a baby, and then there's a whole thing with like Caradoc and Matilda because it's like an older brother and a younger sister, and so they talk about that. We go to Dirkander. The king literally picks up Caradoc and throws him in the air, and the guy we sent over here with the information gatherer is here, and he didn't know we were the scions of Erdrick, so he gets excited about that. Over in Mursa, Melmel and her friends like lose their minds and are flown around and like give us like mermaid blessings by like punching people in the chest. We talk to the queen. She's super happy about everything and feels better about all the stuff we did. We go back to the Renderic shrine where there was like that sketchy guy and the whole place is like completely destroyed, and they're talking about like, was this a illusion of Hargon, or was this what? And then we see a rainbow and they're like, "Oh no, it was like a good spirit." We go we go checking on Rubish. She's like, "Thank you for returning. You guys have like done this thing. I don't have to like go sleep in the ground anymore. So that's super awesome. I can continue to be like the protector of like light in this world and other worlds and all this stuff." So that's nice. And then finally, we head back home. And our father gives us a hug, and he talks about how it's time for us to take over, and then proclaims us the king, and then everyone celebrates. And then the credits roll. And then afterwards, the Dragon Lord starts hearing like an ancient evil voice talking about doing some shady bullshit. And he's like, "Oh no, the hero's job is not done yet." That's because there's a post game, and in the post game, after you like get like, so in the post game, you got to go get the Sphere of Light from like a end game, like a crazy dungeon. I think it was called the Confusion Dungeon or something. And then you can take the Sphere of Light, and then you got to upgrade the Sword of Erdrick and I think the shield as well again. So you can use them, and then you have to go back to Hargon, beat him, beat Maloroth, and then the evil dark presence shows up, possesses the body of Maloroth. And I read somewhere that this was like the evil spirit that's also the main boss in like Dragon Quest XI. I don't know how true that is, but anyway, so if you do all that, and you fight this boss, and I watched a video on it just to like double check. I like looked it up, and then I watched like someone do it on YouTube because I wasn't gonna fucking spend like another 10 hours like grinding out and getting all this post game shit. So after you do so you fight the boss on the back of that bird, like the Phoenix bird from from Dragon Quest 3, and so that's dope. And then then you are celebrating, but then like you're like still want to go on adventures, and there's like after you become king, your dad hears you and Caradoc and Paranel and Matilda talking about how you guys wanted to go on like one more adventure before you all became like kings and queens and whatnot. And so then he lets you go, and then the bird shows up to take all of you to Alahan. Yeah, Alahan. And you go talk to the king, and you show him the helmet, and he's like, "Holy shit, wow, you like rebroke the barrier, so now people can travel back and forth, I guess, to this land, and this is the home of like your ancestors or whatnot." And then they got like some and so that's cool. And then you go talk to Mama, but it's not Mama because it's been like hundreds of years, obviously. But apparently there's like this woman who still lives in the house that is like the descendant of like the woman. So it sounds like she got like remarried and shit, and had kids, because then like this woman who's living there has like, as soon as you go up and you go look at her and she looks at you, and then there's like a flashback. Well, it's not a flashback. The word goes like Sepia, and then it's like the spirits of like that you possess, which is like your ancestor Erdrick from Dragon Quest 3, and then the spirit of her ancestor, which is like the mother of you, are like meeting, and then she's like, "My son has returned. I'm so happy," and then she hugs. So it's like a really sweet, nice ending. And then you get like, that's the end. So that's the end of the game. So Dragon Quest 2, just like Dragon Quest 1, I liked it, and I think I said at the beginning of this video, I like some of the additional changes. Matilda is peak, and as the kids would say, and so I really enjoy her addition. And I like I like Mariella's kind of thing, and there is a lot to like about the additional story stuff and kind of like connecting things a little bit more. But I feel like this game, and Dragon Quest HD 3D Remake went too far into like trying to like add more story for stuff to keep going. Like I felt like if they could probably have cut like half the like bullshitting around. And I would have enjoyed the game more. And then, like, I like story, but it's one of those situations where I just feel like playing through it, the story did not add enough to me feel like there was like so much extra like little bullshit in the story that I feel like it started to distract my enjoyment of like actually playing the game and like the main crux of the story. That like when I think about playing this and I think about playing the older Dragon Quest 2, it's like I wish I'd gone leaner in this regard, right? I miss the kind of like, it's like an open world. You kind of just like meander about and like find stuff and explore, kind of more like a Skyrim situation I'm trying to think of another modern equivalent, but there's really none. So like, where you just have like an open world and you just go out and or Witcher 3, or all the Witchers are kind of like this. Witcher 3 is more open than the other two, to be completely honest. They have more of like a set story, but just something where it's like more loose and more open, and like you can kind of just meander about and do things at your own leisure. And then this is like everything has to tie into everything else, and there's all this extra bullshit, and it's like I really didn't need all this extra bullshit, to be completely honest. Like it was so unnecessary and kind of just like bloated out, and I was just, at the end of the day, I was just kind of like, I don't know if I'd ever play this version of the game again. Like I enjoyed it, and like the ending is super cute. Like the secret ending that I was not going to go get. I was like, oh, Mom, I got to see her. Like the spirit of Mom, I got to see the spirit of her son again. That's so sweet. Oh, I love that. But other than that, just play the originals. Play the Super Nintendo version. It's excellent. But yeah, so I enjoyed this experience, but I would definitely, the originals are better. Or not even the original like remake was better. So yeah, so thanks for joining us on this Dragon Quest journey. We're going to hit up the Altair series next, which is a lot of fucking games. So that's going to be like the rest of the year, if not into next year. But go ahead and like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.